Part 71. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 705. At that time, Yilin happened to be walking her dog and baby on the green grass of the Great Engineer Tower. Yilin is walking a baby. The baby is walking a dog. At first Emperor Wang Tian was not happy. With its pride, it would not allow a young girl to lead it around like a pet. Until Shue'er gave Wang Tiandi a pink punch. At that time, the whole dog was driven into the soil, forming a wood shape, and the dog's body was trembling. Later, Wang Tiandi's eyes darkened and he expressed with rich body language, "I am very happy, please walk the dog to death." After getting a new toy, Shue'er stopped pestering Yilin so much. While playing on the grass, a new member was in charge of patrolling the perimeter. He ran up to Yilin with a pale face and said that a scary woman came to the president for a duel. Fight all the way into the enemy's position, just for a fair duel? Yilin subconsciously felt that there was something wrong with this woman from a foreign country, which made Yilin want to laugh. But when Yilin thought of Miriam and the scene where she pierced her evil thoughts space with a sword, she couldn't laugh. The space of evil thoughts is indeed not invincible. As a subspace, the upper limit of its own space exists. This can be broken. Yilin already knew this when she was in Gugu Town. Those white hand legions surged out from the space cracks and easily tore through the evil space barrier. When he rubbed the annihilation ball himself, he also made a big hole. But Yilin was also very convinced that the space of his evil thoughts was not something that cats and dogs could easily break. But Miriam was broken. This shows that Miriam is no ordinary cat or dog. That's why Yilin had a headache. He is truly worthy of being the president of the second guild in the world. Even if he is only the second child, his strength cannot be underestimated. After thinking for a moment, Yilin issued an order in the guild channel. Make a way, let her in, don't make fearless resistance, don't cause innocent casualties, let me do it. Not long after Yilin's order was issued, the Tiankai members who were preparing to resist desperately made way for them. The other party was too cruel. With the slightest contact, more than a dozen people were thrown away in an instant, and no one could stop him. Fortunately, there were no major casualties for the time being. It was precisely because of Yilin's order that Miriam had an unimpeded journey and went directly to the high wall of the Great Engineer Tower to call for formation. What exactly do you want to do? Shue'er was riding on Yilin's shoulders, Shue'er was holding a dog leash in her hand, and Wang Tiandi followed closely like a dog licker. When Yilin appeared in this weird scene, Miriam's unswerving expression became dull for a moment. She felt that her painting style was completely ruined. Yilin asked knowingly. After accidentally getting involved with that useless companion item that was of little use to him, Yilin knew that Miriam would come to kill her again sooner or later. I don't know why, but suddenly, the upturned hair on Miriam's forehead trembled slightly like a radar antenna, and then pointed straight at Yilin. The hair curled up, as if she had some big move to kill Yilin. Locked. Miriam's heroic eyebrows twisted slightly, and after a slight nasal sound came from her nose, she looked at Yilin again. As expected, she was not the kind of person who liked to talk nonsense. She said straight to the point, "Hand over Avalon." Avalon. The faraway utopia. That is the glory that our Pendragon family has passed down from generation to generation. It is the glory of the Night King and must not be tarnished. But haven't you lost it? SHH, don't make trouble. Shue'er, be good and go pull Wang. It's Harry. When Yilin was confronting Miriam, Shue'er was bored and pulled hard. Pulling Yilin's hair, he even pulled a bunch of it off. Yilin could only comfort Shue'er while talking to Miriam. Miriam. Wow, Goze, who was pretending to be innocent at Yilin's feet, was so aggrieved at this moment that he couldn't help crying like a dolphin. After putting Shue'er on the waist of Wang Tiandi's male dog and letting Shue'er ride the dog, Yilin was finally able to have a good chat. Miriam looked at the picture of the two people opposite her having fun with each other, and the murderous invisible holy sword in front of her moved down a little involuntarily. Yulin looked at Miriam, who was speechless, and continued to smile. The king's glory you mentioned seems to be lost often, which means that it has no connection with your family. Let's forget it, your family can't control it. It can't be counted. Miriam shook her head stubbornly, and her tone was as strong as iron. Recovering the glory of the king is the ancestral motto of the Pendragon family, passed down from generation to generation. Haha, you know it's impossible. Death drops, unless I die. Or, you want to trigger an all-out war between the two guilds. Yulin made it clear. Although this prop is useless. But Yulin can't take it off either. What he doesn't want. But there is no way. The props dropped by death are destined to accompany Yulin for a lifetime. A lifetime. A lifetime. He could only find a way to dispel Miriam's stubborn thoughts. At the same time, Yulin's fingers trembled slightly. He was also thinking, calculating, and hesitating whether to use the 12 Heavens Annihilation Ring to kill Miriam here regardless of consumption. After all, this is Yulin's home court, so why don't you take advantage of the home court advantage? Yulin is not stupid. No, Miriam shook her head again, her hair trembling. Forgive me for being presumptuous, I hope you will accompany me to Europe. Huh, Yulin was slightly startled when she heard this. What did Miriam mean by saying this? Could it be that she was planning to lure herself to her home court for a vigorous siege? No way. Yulin couldn't help but feel dumbfounded afterwards. Even with such a small calculation, he wouldn't use such an unskilled way to deceive people, right? Isn't that too childish? Children don't even bother to be so straightforward. It's so poor. Ahem. Yulin had a weird expression, staring at the dull hair on Miriam's head, half smiling. How many people have you arranged for your side? Miriam slowly typed a question mark, looking puzzled. Forget it, don't do such boring and useless work. To tell you the truth, the human sea tactic is useless to me. Yulin pointed at Shwe'er beside her, who was pulling Wang Tiandi's ears and playing happily with the dog. As you can see, in addition to managing the guild, I also have to take care of my children and walk my dog. I'm really busy. I'm not as free as you. I still have time to travel around the world. Miriam was stunned again. Yulin turned around and prepared to return to the great engineer tower. As he walked, he said, the companion props fell when they died. There is no way I can return them to you. No. Miriam pressed her groove up and down, biting it tightly, and said loudly, when I return here, I only want a fair fight. As long as I win, you can follow me to Europe. Yulin rolled his eyes, feeling that something was wrong with the other party's logic. I'm just going to assuming you win the duel. Just kill me and take the Avalon, why bother taking me back to Europe? Miriam stared, and she finally understood that she and the other party were not communicating on the same channel at all. No, when I think about it carefully, it seems that I didn't make it clear. So Miriam tried hard to suppress the urge to use Excalibur to blow the back of the opponent's head into pieces, and tried to explain in words that would not anger the opponent. Dear President of the Apocalypse Guild, you misunderstood. Miriam put away her weapon and bowed to Yulin. Europe is the ancient birthplace of magic. To this day, Europe still retains a complete magic inheritance. I believe the knowledge stored in that mysterious magician association must contain a method to safely remove Avalon from your body. Magician's Guild? When Yulin heard this, she suddenly became interested. Magic. Yes, magic. Knowledge. Yes, knowledge. Yulin snapped her fingers, and a mini teleportation circle appeared out of thin air. Yulin put her hand into the circle and took out a hot and fragrant soul pancake. While chewing it, she asked, this kind of magic? Good on. Miriam had a straight face and swallowed hard. She nodded first, then shook her head quickly. Your Excellency's strength is amazing, but it's not like this. I will think about it. Yilin was thoughtful while chewing pancakes. After leaving a few words, she took her daughter Gozi and walked into the high wall. Myrian looked at the backs of Yilin's family of 3 leaving and took a long breath. She actually sat down at the door of the great engineer's tower, closed her eyes, and remained motionless. President, what do you think? Yilin and Li Kai were on the top of the tower, looking down at Miriam, who was sitting in front of the door of the great engineer's tower like a naughty girl who refused to leave. He repeated Myrian's words to Li Kai word for word. After listening to the entire process of how the dignified president of the second guild in the world was cheating on the territory of the first guild in the world, Li Kaixin also felt a little funny, but he did not express his own thoughts, but first listened to Yilin's comments later. Beside, Shuer was grabbing Wang Tiandi's tail and spinning in circles. The whole dog was flying in the air, with tears and runny nose running down his face, and he looked extremely happy. She seems to be the kind of person with a single head. Yilin answered the question incorrectly. Li Kai nodded. Well, it seems that it is difficult to send her away easily. No, Yilin shook her head slightly and grinned. I mean, for a person of her type, it would be difficult for her to do any conspiracy. She is the same type as Xiao Wu. Instead of thinking about all kinds of things, it would be more refreshing to chop it with one sword. President, what do you mean? If I were her, no, to put it another way, if she had my kind of thinking, there could be more ways to force me to agree. Yilin looked at Li Kai. She used a skill at that time. One sword penetrated my subspace. If that level of attack power were unleashed on the camouflage canopy. Yilin paused. Before the words were spoken, Li Kai already understood. Even if one sword can't break the camouflage sky, she can definitely cut it once, run away, recover, cut again, run again, cut again, run again, run again and cut again. We can't leave our station, but she is a person, and she can run away if she cannot be defeated. If she continues to be wasted like this, no one can defeat her. Li Kai narrowed his eyes and stared at his president strangely, feeling inexplicably angry and a little bit lucky. It's a good thing that you are the president of your own guild. If you were the president of someone else's guild, would you still be able to get this station? After some conversation, Li Kai was vaguely aware of Yilin's thoughts. Is the president planning to go to the next district to serve? Is it risky to move across districts? If the president of the Knights Alliance does not follow martial ethics and plays a little trick, oh, no president, if you go to the Tower of War server, you can almost foresee that exposure is inevitable. Yilin's eyes narrowed slightly, but what Li Kai said made Yilin laugh. Yes, as long as there are a few sane people in the next district, my cross-district operation will definitely be exposed. I don't expect small probability events to happen, especially small probability events that are beneficial to me. President, you are self-aware. Li Kai sighed softly. Haha, don't forget my abilities. Yilin made a circle gesture. Right. Li Kai nodded, and his little worry disappeared instantly. Yilin's abilities are mysterious and changeable. Even if she encounters someone who cannot be defeated, if Yilin wants to run away, there are probably not many people in the world who can stop her. Forget it, I'll think about it again. After all, crossing districts is not a trivial matter, let's talk about it later. Then, how does the president plan to reply to her? Li Kai asked for Yilin's opinion. The other party's identity is too sensitive. In addition to being the president of the world's second guild, the Knight Alliance, she is also the invader identity. I believe that this matter will soon reach the ears of others. Haha, you shouldn't be worried about someone making a fuss about this matter, right? Exactly. Just do it. Anyone who dares to provoke me will be beaten back directly. Yilin spoke lightly, but it was a domineering line. Yilin planned to show off Myrian first and dampen her spirit. By the way, let her feel how dangerous the world is. This drying lasted for 3 days. Miriam seemed determined to die. He never left the door of the great engineer's tower. When he was sleepy, he would sleep against the wall. When he was hungry, he would take out hard and cold dry food and nibble on it. When he was thirsty, he would drink water. I managed to get through it. Everyone in the Apocalypse Guild learned that a ruthless man was blocking the main entrance of the great engineer tower. They always walked around the road when they went out to work, for fear of provoking him. In the Apostle Forum. Sure enough, there were a lot of rumors. What is said about Tiankai Guild colluding with external forces? The Apocalypse Guild and the Knights Alliance in the Tower of War server have joined forces to prepare to sweep the world. What's even more outrageous is that there is an anonymous post leading the rhythm. It is said that the president of the Apocalypse Guild and the president of the Knights Alliance are about to get married, forming an unbreakable marriage combination, and no one can rival them. Of course Yilin saw the comments and rumors in the forum. He's not blind. After some planning, Yilin decided to fight back. He asked Li Fa to launch a navy to spread various news in the Apostle Forum. The president of the Knights Alliance Guild, one of the top 100 strongest men in the world, came to challenge the president of the Apocalypse Guild for a duel, but because he was defeated, he stayed at the door and refused to leave. Shock. 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 The president of the Knights Alliance Guild is here to harass you. He was beaten to the point of doubting his life. The mysterious president of the Apocalypse Guild takes action again, completely impressing the Knights Alliance Guild and bringing glory to our district. Awesome. The leader of the Knights Alliance Guild demanded a duel, but was trapped in the great engineer's tower, hung up and whipped for 3 days and 3 nights. Apocalypse is awesome. In the end, public opinion was inexplicably skewed. There was only a sea of posts shouting Apocalypse is awesome. Occasionally, there are some Apocalypse must die posts. As soon as they pop up, they are drowned by endless trolls. Since it is a rumor, then use more violent rumors to kill it. Look, there is no need to defend. The more you argue, the more confusing the situation becomes. Blow it to death. The more exaggerated the better. Anyway, the Knights Alliance can't see the forum in our district. Yilin expressed great appreciation for her ability to muddy the waters. Satisfy. After 2 days of fighting for public opinion, Yilin thought it was almost done, so she appeared in front of Miriam again in the early morning of the 3rd day. When Yilin appeared with her daughter and Guza, he was bathed in sunshine and his figure was particularly tall. Miriam raised her head blankly, her face slightly pale. But she pursed her lips tightly, and the heroic spirit in her brows did not diminish at all. When Yilin saw this, she raised her brows and secretly admired Miriam's willpower. "Have you considered it, Your Excellency?" Miriam asked. "I've thought about it," Yilin said with a smile. "After much thought, I always feel that just agreeing to you and following a strange woman to Europe will make me, the world's #1 guild president, a bit casual. You may not know, I am not a casual person." Miriam was stunned when she heard this. She didn't quite understand what Yilin meant by what she said. "Duel," Yilin said her plan. "If you win, I will go back to Europe with you. If you lose, we will go back and forth from where we came." "Okay. I hope you will keep your promise." Miriam was fired up when she heard this. Her blue eyes were ignited with fierce fighting spirit. Her silver armor shone in the morning light, and her slightly droopy hair also appeared again. "Stand up and play Q as before." Miriam's gauntlet shook, and strong winds swirled around her, like wind armor. "Haha," Yilin laughed again. "Oh, you may have misunderstood something. The duel I am talking about does not mean you and me." Miriam was stunned again. She felt like her head was being pulled around and dragged by Yilin. When Yilin spoke, a sharp and harsh sound came from behind Yilin. Myota had no expression on her face, dragging her long knife diagonally by her side, the tip of the knife touching the ground, and walked out of the great engineer tower step by step. Following Oda Mai's movements, a straight knife mark was left on the ground behind her, and sparks shot out from the point where the knife tip came into contact with the ground. Oda Mai is gathering momentum. She walked very slowly. Every step is as heavy as a mountain. When she walked to Yilin's side, her energy had reached its peak. Standing there, she was like a peerless sword that had not been unsheathed and could not feel the slightest edge. The duel rules are simple. In a one-on-one duel, you can hack to death, but you can never hack to death. In a duel, stop there. If one round determines the outcome, it would be a bit hasty, so let's just settle on 100 rounds. 100 rounds. Is there such a way to duel? Yilin's temporary rules redefined the concept of duel in Miriam's mind. Yilin chuckled. 100 games, 51 wins. The scope of the duel is the entire Hating City. Now, duel. Start. The moment Yilin finished speaking, Oda Mai chuckled, and the morning light made Oda Mai's smile look extremely beautiful. Da-da-da. In the blink of an eye, Oda Mai appeared behind Miriam. Laugh. Miriam clutched her neck. Blood gushed out between the white fingers. 1-0. Oda Mai smiled. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 706. Great Engineer Tower. The 199th floor. Li Kai's office and bedroom. After Oda Mai and Miriam gradually drifted away from each other in their fight, Yilin came here. I have a new black tea here, a 10-year collection. President, can you try it? I'm not a fan of tea, forget it, it's okay. The two of them sat on both sides of the coffee table. Call. Mrs. Li was waiting at the side. With a flick of her hand, the water in the pot boiled in a few seconds. The aroma of tea overflowed. Seeing Yilin's unhurried look, Li Kai smiled and casually talked about Yilin's decision to fight 100 duels. Who do you think the president can win? Yilin took a sip and said calmly, Xiao Danwu loses. Oh. The other party has encountered many adventures. And according to preliminary estimates, the attributes of strength and agility are already extraordinary, and the attributes of will and luck are also estimated to be very high. Xiao Wu can't compete. Well, it's the same as Li thought. Li Kai pondered for a moment, then said with a smile, then the president thinks that idleness is idle, so why not make a bet to add to the fun? Yilin's body sank into the soft sofa. He pressed his elbows on the armrests and held his chin with his fists. He said calmly, this kind of bet is too boring. You and I should both be able to imagine that Xiao Wu will fight in this 100 times, the probability of successfully opening the lock is higher. No, the president misunderstood. Li Kai smiled, what I want to bet on is in which round Oda Mai successfully unlocks the lock. Tisk, you are so old, why are you still acting like a child? Mrs. Li stood by the door, watching her husband make a bet with Yilin, and suddenly felt angry and funny. But she didn't say much. Outside, men made the decision, so let them do it. Huh, after hearing this, Yilin sat up straight on the sofa and became interested, it's interesting. I'll join. Mrs. Li was stunned. She found out she was wrong. There are 2 children here. Before the duel between Oda Mai and Miriam, Yilin asked Li Kai to post a post on the forum. The content is half true and half false. Generally speaking, the president of the Knights Alliance is here in person, and his strength is unfathomable. For the future of the district server and to reduce casualties, the Apocalypse Guild is preparing for a fair duel with the president of the Knights Alliance. All other idle people, please leave Hating City as soon as possible. This can be said to be Tiankai's official statement. The previous rumors proved self-evident. This post, Shortly after Oda Mai and Miriam got into a fight, exceeded 10 million views at an extremely fast rate and topped the trending searches. The word apocalypse has long been familiar to the whole world. It is not surprising at all that it is a hot search topic in various forum areas. In other words, the day when Apocalypse Guild related posts are not on the front row of hot posts, something big will happen. Sensible people smell the danger and evacuate hating city as quickly as possible. As for those who are ignorant, they can only ask for their own blessings. Many drones were cruising in the air, broadcasting the duel between the two in real time. This incident not only caused an uproar outside Tiankai Guild, but even among our own people, the news spread. Everyone in the guild was very curious as to why Miliangi, the president of the Knights Alliance, kept coming to Hating City to cause trouble for Apocalypse. Is there any secret in this? Comments and rumors naturally took off. Human beings are always curious. Some optimists believed that the Knight Alliance was preparing for a cross-region invasion, but was blocked by the Apocalypse Guild. Some conspiracy theorists think this is a show. Otherwise, why would Yilin, as the president, not go into battle in person but send his younger brother? There is also a theory that Oda Mai and Miriam are both women, and the reason why they fought was because they were competing for the right to choose a mate. Members of the Apocalypse Guild prefer the last statement. They had seen it with their own eyes. Not long ago, the president had a biological daughter for no apparent reason. Not long after, Miriam came to kill her. This is clearly a classic drama about traveling thousands of miles, looking for flesh and blood, and killing your lover in anger. Once this idea spreads, it cannot be contained. With the good intention of letting members learn combat skills, Li Kai deliberately projected the live action of the duel between the two in high definition in front of the Grand Engineer Tower Square. In the courtyard of the Great Engineer Tower, more than 2,000 members gathered around. Li Changa was among the crowd, selling soda and melon seeds, and the sales were impressive. Ningyu and Xingfei are two men who are in love with each other and have a tacit understanding of each other. Each of them spoke a sentence, and under the projection, their voices were full of emotions. As seniors, they narrated on the spot, just like professional stand-up comedians. Look, the president of the other party seems to have a stern expression, but we can tell from her slightly trembling right hand that she must be very excited. I think there must be some amazing secrets hidden in it. Ningyu said. Xingfei quickly answered, as we all know, our president is so powerful that he has overwhelmed the Knights Alliance and cannot breathe. But this is an established fact. There is no need to get excited about such nonsense. Therefore, the reason for her excitement only one. Ningyu smiled and said, I have to mention our president. Our president is 19 years old, young and promising, and he is still unmarried. I have a well-behaved daughter, Xingfei quickly reminded. Even though he had just arrived, he had heard about it. His first reaction at that time was to see if there was anything in the domestic law that could be used. When Xingfei just said this, a dog happened to fly past the crowd crying. Shuer giggled innocently, chasing after the flying dog with her weak pink fist. One baby and one dog, having a great time. The atmosphere is harmonious, warm, and touching. Yilin walked silently from behind the crowd. No one noticed Yilin's presence. Yilin looked at Xingfei and Ningyu, who were beaming under the projection and pretending to be on-site commentators, with expressionless faces, and secretly took notes. Going around behind the Great Engineer Tower, Yilin found Gu Tianqing. Gu Tianqing still has that elegant fake smile. He is wearing white gloves and is currently sitting on a long stone chair under the shade of a tree, shuffling the cards in a rigid, repetitive, and tireless manner. You came. Before Yilin came closer, Gu Tianqing raised her head and smiled, as if she had already known that Yilin would come to her door. Has anyone ever told you that your face looks like it deserves a beating? Really? Gu Tianqing pondered for a moment, and then replied, to each other. Yulin sat down on the air, 3 meters away from Gu Tianqing. Tell me, sneak in, what do you want to do? From what I know about you, you are not the kind of person who is willing to join a guild. Gu Tianqing played with the tarot cards skillfully, but did not draw anyone. Facing Yilin's question, Gu Tianqing did not deny it, but said with a smile, once people are tired, they always want to find a place to rest. This is not a hotel. Gu Tianqing shook her head and said, the whole world, to me, is the same everywhere. But for me, it's not. Yilin crossed his fingers and placed them gently on his knees. There was a hanging ring on one of his hands. After finishing the first half of the sentence, Yilin paused and continued, I can tolerate people from other guilds staying here because they cannot become unstable factors, but you can't. If your words are a compliment to me, I feel honored. That's what you think. Don't be ridiculous. What are you doing here? Yilin didn't give Gu Tianqing a chance to change the subject. Haha, Gu Tianqing laughed again, but didn't you also let me join? Human beings are always curious. Gu Tianqing looked at Yilin with a half smile on her face. He quickly changed the subject, do you believe in fate? Hearing this, Yilin fell silent for a moment. Gu Tianqing's words reminded Yilin of many things. When Yilin was silent, Gu Tianqing continued, it was fate that led me here. To be honest, I can't stand your bastard tone. Yilin sighed softly, if I hadn't owed you a favor in Kanyang City, I couldn't help but beat you now. You can stay here if you want. Well, I'm repaying the favor of your divination reminder in Kanyang City, but I'll give you a friendly advice, don't cause trouble in my territory. Once I find out, I will kill you. When Yilin said this, his tone was very calm, but the threat contained in it was as clear as the literal meaning. The smile on Gu Tianqing's face did not diminish. He always maintained this elegant smile, no matter what he faced. After Yilin said those words, she raised her butt and stood up, ready to end this strange conversation. Do you believe in fate? Gu Tianqing smoothed her curly hair and asked the previous question again with a smile. Yilin is ready to leave. But Gu Tianqing asked, making Yilin stop again. Yilin smiled at Gu Tianqing and said his answer, I don't believe it. What a pity. Actually, it doesn't make any sense whether you believe it or not. Yilin looked at Gu Tianqing's emotionless eyes and asked, there are countless possibilities for the future. Your divination or other types of precognitive abilities, it's just telling you the most likely future direction. If your divination tells you that you will die at a certain time and place, what will you do? Death. Gu Tianqing closed her eyes and took a deep breath. There was a bit of weird intoxication on his face, like a smoker who had quit smoking for a long time. There was a smoker standing in front of him, looking like he was enjoying other people's second-hand smoke. Everyone will face death. Only death can make life complete. No matter how bright the fireworks are, if they don't end, we will never miss the beauty of them when they are prosperous, right? You have not answered my question yet. After Gu Tianqing finished sighing, she looked directly at Yilin and nodded, if my death is unavoidable, I will open my arms and spend the last few seconds savoring the taste of death before I die. Believe me, this kind of the taste will definitely make you addicted. Forget it, I won't let myself have the opportunity to enjoy this taste, I'll leave it to you to savor it slowly. After saying that, Yilin left without looking back. He came here just to confirm the purpose of Gu Tianqing, the unsettling factor. As Yilin said, in Kanyang City, although Gu Tianqing himself had something to ask for at the time, he was able to remind Mo Rendi of the rebellion, which was regarded as selling Yilin a favor. According to Gu Tianqing's character, it was okay for him not to remind him and just watch with cold eyes. Therefore, Yilin admitted that he owed Gu Tianqing a favor. Moreover, although he is an uncontrollable factor, it is undeniable that Gu Tianqing's ability can be of great use in certain special occasions. So Yilin chose to let Gu Tianqing in. It's not a big deal actually. After Yilin left, Gu Tianqing was still sitting alone on a stone chair in the shade of a tree, washing the tarot cards in her hands at a constant speed, one time at a time. Suddenly, one of them shook out. Gu Tianqing took off her gloves, rubbed them gently for a moment, and then opened them to take a look. On the card, there is a god of death with a ferocious face. No, Gu Tianqing closed her eyes, smiled slightly, and spoke in a foreign language inexplicably, "You will." After Yilin and Gu Tianqing finished their pleasant chat, he returned to Li Kai's office to drink tea. At the same time, the two chatted casually about the future direction of the guild's development. Chatting casually, a little serious, but not too serious. There were some ideas that Yilin didn't say out loud because he was afraid of scaring Li Kai. Moreover, that was a matter for the Snow Mountain Station, and Yilin managed it alone. Yilin gave Li Kai great authority. The great engineer tower almost left it to Li Kai. Yilin simply put forward his own ideas and Li Kai was responsible for the specific implementation. Time passed 12 hours before I knew it. Yilin also had a meal on the way. Yilin has been busy making food for a long time, and Yilin hasn't tried eating other people's food for a long time. Although the taste is not good, it is better than the comfort. In Wang Tiandi's storage space, Yilin stuffed a lot of food. When Shuer is hungry, she will naturally punch Guzi hard and make Guzi hand over the food. Yilin doesn't have to worry about this. Since Wang Tiandi took the initiative to share the work of raising the baby, the burden on Yilin's shoulders has been reduced by half. This dog is well raised and raised wonderfully, which is beyond words. Yilin expressed deep gratitude to Emperor Wang Tian in her heart. People who have never raised a baby cannot understand the hardships of raising a baby. In particular, this naughty kid can knock Yilin flying more than 10 meters with one punch. The gratitude in Yilin's heart lasted for several seconds. He focused on business again. After dinner, the sun sets. Night falls. The duel between Oda Mai and Miriam lasted throughout the day and ended at night. Boom. In the distance, another building collapsed. In the room, a three-dimensional holographic projection of the entire Hating city was suspended between the two people. As the building collapsed, the corresponding building in the holographic projection flashed red 3 times and then dimmed. This area is almost gone. While talking, Mrs. Lee handed over a cup of hot black tea with a smile. The black tea leaves have been changed again and again, and this pot is freshly brewed. Thank you, Madam Li Kai took the black tea and took a sip. In the projection, with the great engineer tower as the center, some areas were almost in ruins, but Li Kai's calmness at the moment gave people the feeling that the building that collapsed was not his house, without any expression of physical pain. Yilin smiled. After the two of them collapse these buildings, the demolition work in this area will be almost completed. About 20% of the buildings are not planned to be demolished. It doesn't matter, there are 2 talented people in the newly built civil engineering department this morning. Let them stretch their muscles a little. It makes sense, Li Kai chuckled, seeing Fei's ability can reuse raw materials. This process saves a lot of manpower in demolishing buildings. He is really a talent. The two looked at each other and couldn't help laughing when they remembered the above conversation. Aside. Mrs. Lee couldn't help covering her forehead, and walked out of the room without looking. Speaking of it, Yilin walked to the wall. Here, you can clearly see the scenery outside. Yilin stared at the direction of the most intense turmoil, turned her back to Li Kai and said, their duel is almost over. By the way, Brother Li, you have already lost. Remember, you are willing to admit defeat. Speaking of this, Li Kai touched his nose depressedly. The current score between Oda Mai and Miriam is 1648. The bet between the two is that at which time Oda Mai can successfully unlock the attribute lock. Whoever says the closer number wins the small bet. Li Kai bet 15 times. In fact, When Yilin told him his chips, Li Kai guessed that he lost. Because he was cheated. The rules are set by Yilin. The conversation between the two at that time was, "I'm joining. Let's bet on a rare item. Brother Li, at what time do you think Xiao Wu will unlock the lock?" 20. You sure? 15 wins, I'm sure. You have made a decision and left, and you are not allowed to regret it. Yilin smiled brightly. I bet that Xiao Wu will step into the extraordinary when Miriam wins her 50th victory. Li Kai was dumbfounded at that time. Soon he realized that he had fallen into Yilin's text trap. What Yilin asked herself was, at which victory can Oda Mai unlock the lock? However, Yilin's own speculation is that Oda Mai can unlock the lock when Myrian wins her 50th victory. Actually, it doesn't matter how many times Xiao Wu wins. Because she will definitely lose. At present, there is still a gap between the two in terms of strength. Yilin looked into the distance and smiled. Xiao Wu is very competitive. As a person, her competitiveness is even stronger than her desire to survive, which she may not have discovered herself. She always thought that she was just pursuing the peak of pure swordsmanship. But, there is nothing completely pure in this world. It is precisely because she feels that this state of mind is too pure that she has not yet broken through the restrictions again. Because a simple mentality of pursuing, searching, exploring, etc. cannot put enough pressure on her. What she lacks is not accumulation, but a strong opponent. An opponent strong enough to arouse Xiao Wu's competitive spirit. And in this kind of duel, as time goes by, repeated failures, and the anxiety, loss, and frustration that Xiao Wu has forgotten for a long time will gradually increase Xiao Wu's pressure. This pressure will reach its peak when Myrian has won 50 times and is about to win the 51st time. It reaches its peak, boom, explodes. At this moment, along with a shrill cry, Yilin and Li Kai's faces became solemn at the same time. Far away, a strange-shaped shadow shot straight into the sky. The shadow was deeper than the night. In the shadows, there seemed to be faces that were crying and ferocious, twisting and wailing. Looking closer, there seemed to be densely packed eyes on his face, gradually opening. Obviously, it's just a shadow. But the strange scene in the shadows made Yilin and Li Kai feel numb in their scalps for an instant. After a while, Yilin slowly breathed a sigh of relief and said 3 words. I won. New August, please vote for me. The more you give, the more motivated I will be to add more. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 707. Shocking news broke out, and Yilin rushed to the scene immediately. When Yilin arrived, I saw Myrian and Oda Mai facing each other from a distance. The wall of a building behind Myrian left hideous and twisted holes with pits on the edges. It was hard to imagine that these were the marks left by any sword moves. It's over. Yilin appeared suddenly like an upright referee. Oda Mai fell softly, as if she had exhausted all her strength. Yilin carried the almost unconscious Oda Mai on her shoulders, turned around and said to the astonished Miriam, even if you win this duel. Your promise. Myrian's face was stern, and she took a step towards Yilin. Her tone seemed to be worried that Yilin's words would not count. Don't worry, I am a person who keeps my promises. Let's talk back. Yilin smiled and waved to Myrian. The next second, he drew a circle and disappeared from the place with Oda Mai. Miriam stayed where she was. She stared at the place where Yilin and Oda Mai disappeared for several seconds, then she tilted her hair and said to herself. Yeah. Oda Mai was not completely unconscious. It's just that it's rare to meet a good opponent. My Oda has almost no reservations and fights with all her strength, which consumes her physical energy violently. She was carried on Yiren's shoulders with her butt in the air. In the past, no matter how weak she was, she would still have to pull out the knife and stab Yilin twice, because this kind of posture was really unspeakable. But for some reason, she closed her eyes silently, pretending to be comatose, and did not refuse. Congratulations to the president, ahem, extraordinary general. When Yilin sent Oda Mai to the infirmary in the station, Li Kai came over with a smile. He opened his mouth with this congratulation. But there was that weird pause in Li Kai's tone. I don't know if he was really hesitant to speak or if he was deliberately stuck. Lying on the bed, Oda Mai had already opened her eyes. She really couldn't do this strange act of pretending to sleep. She looked at Yilin calmly, and after a few seconds of silence, Oda Mai smiled slightly. It finally worked. Oda Mai didn't say thank you. She thought it was a little weird to say thank you to him. Then you should rest well. Yilin nodded and walked out of the infirmary side by side with Li Kai. That king of knights is squatting at the door of our station again. Oh. There is no need to witness it with your own eyes. When Li Kai said these words, Yilin immediately imagined a picture of a blonde girl wearing skirt and armor, sitting stubbornly at the door of the great engineer tower, stuffing dry food into her mouth and chewing hard. Myrian's behavior is called waiting, to put it nicely, and blocking the door, to put it worse. Due to the duel between the two, almost everything in the city that should be destroyed was destroyed. In Li Kai's words, the demolition work is completed. The two took advantage of their free time to make final plans based on the drawings. Yilin pointed at the map and said with a smile, I plan to build strong walls layer by layer in concentric circles with the great engineer tower as the center. The president wants to turn the station into a fortress. Li Kai quickly understood what Yilin meant. He was a little puzzled. By building Hating City into a fortress, who are we guarding against? But Li Kai didn't ask any more questions in the end. The two hammered out the details. In the next period of time, it will be time for the civil engineering department to flex its muscles. The next day. Noon. Oda Mai's recovery is complete. She had 2 knives on her waist and found Yilin at the station. I want to go back to Yingdao. When Oda Mai found Yilin, he was holding a book and reading it with gusto. The cover of the book is very old, and the outermost layer of the craft paper cover is mottled and peeling off. This book is Sci-fi's collection. It is an ancient book about alchemy left in this world. Sci-fi regarded these ancient books that he had finally collected as treasures, and Yilin borrowed them after a lot of effort. On the side, Shuer was playing a little game of flying dog with Wang Tiandi. Oda Mai finished speaking. Yilin closed the ancient book on alchemy, raised her head, and with a little more concern in her eyes, asked, has something happened to your master? Thanks for your concern, for the time being, not yet. Oda Mai paused for a moment before continuing, Master sent a letter saying that the cherry blossom trees in the courtyard are in full bloom. Don't miss the evening cherry blossoms. The implication is that his master told her to go home and see the cherry blossoms. Yilin and Oda Mai are also quite familiar with each other. He was afraid that there was something that Oda Mai was hiding in his heart and refused to say. Oda Mai never mentioned her master to Yilin. Thinking about it this way, it is probably because the lonely old man who lives in Yingdao is lonely and finds an excuse for Oda Mai to go home to visit relatives. Yilin expressed understanding. After asking casually, Oda Mai planned to leave immediately. At the moment, Yilin roughly found the corresponding coordinates on the map, opened a portal, and teleported Oda Mai to Yingdao. What makes Yilin feel a little strange is that before leaving, Oda Mai waited there for several minutes, looking like he was speechless. Hurry up and leave. My portal won't last long. Well, hurry up. Yilin didn't want to rush it, but maintaining a long-distance portal for a long time was a bit stressful for Yilin now. At last, Oda Mai stepped into the portal with a sullen face and returned to Yingdao without saying a word. Yulin always felt that Xiao Wu had a strange expression when she left. While Li Kai was busy rebuilding the damaged city, Yulin took the time to return to the Snow Mountain station. The construction of new nuclear reactor equipment is proceeding in an orderly manner. Li Ziyuki dressed himself up as a contractor, wearing a helmet, and directed the hard-working Shen's army to build a water storage tower. When Yulin came back, he quietly came to the greenhouse without disturbing anyone. "Brother Qi," I said, "no. I can handle it myself." When Yulin's footsteps sounded behind Li Shizhen was facing the door, lowering her head and tinkering with something. She seemed to think that the person coming was Li Ziyuki, so she said loudly without looking back, "What's done?" Yurin approached with a smile. "Ah, President." Li Shizhen heard Yulin's voice and looked back in fright. When she saw clearly that the person coming was Yulin, she remembered what she had just said, her face turned slightly red, and she waved her hands quickly, her voice full of apology, yes, I'm sorry. President. I didn't know it was you." "It's nothing, don't be nervous, I'm not a bad person." After Yulin said this, she felt a little bit wrong and stopped talking nonsense. He saw a strange plant on Li Shizhen's desk. Wanting to change the subject and satisfy his curiosity, he casually asked, "What is this?" Originally, the things she planted were Li Shizhen's little secret, and she never mentioned it to anyone. But since it was the president who asked, Li Shizhen didn't hide it, but rather showed off. She looked away and said with a smile, "Reply to the president, this is a piranha." "A common piranha?" "No." Li Shizhen knew what Yulin wanted to ask. She shook her head and reported truthfully, "I was once trapped in a weird jungle during a trial together. There were many strange plants in it, and some of them could spit poisonous gas. Flowers, peas that spit out bullets, vines that actively hunt for prey like traps, exploding cherries, potatoes that explode when stepped on, burning wooden stakes. Li Shizhen's presence in Tiankai Guild is not strong. People don't talk much either. But when she chatted with Yulin about topics that interested her, she talked endlessly about the strange plants she had seen during the trial. She said that during that trial, the terrifying forest was filled with monsters called zombies. They had no intelligence, but were extremely powerful and difficult to be harmed by ordinary weapons. But the plants she was talking about seemed to be the natural enemies of the zombies. Thousands of plants were scattered in the forest, making the zombies howl and scream. Yulin became interested. "Can you grow those magical plants you talk about in the real world?" "Yes, President, I think I am not far from success." Li Shizhen pointed to the small piranha on the table, her face turned red and she was excited. "The lethality of those magical plants after they grow in scale, I saw it with my own eyes, it was a fully equipped plant army. Although I don't have many seeds on hand, as long as it can be successfully planted on a large scale, I think it should be able to become a powerful fighting force." In a small flower pot, a small green seedling fluttered gracefully. There is a bud on the seedling that does not fit the body. It's like a baby with a huge dog's head growing on its neck, giving people a strong sense of violation. Yulin stretched out a finger curiously. Click. Suddenly, the intact flower bud burst into 2 rows of jagged cracks, like a bloodthirsty mouth, biting Yulin's fingers. Boo! After all, it was just a seedling with limited sipping power. Yulin showed no expression on her face and pulled out the bloody finger without much effort. Aside. Li Shizhen was trembling all over. She was so happy just now, but now she was about to cry. If she bites it, it will grow. No, if her plant bites it, it will grow. What should I do? Yulin looked at a neat row of tooth marks on his index finger, with blood oozing from it. But after a while, the wound healed. Seeing Li Shizhen's expression of almost crying, Yulin expressed that she couldn't laugh or cry. Are you that scary? Or is it that the president's majesty is too heavy? He kept talking, and Li Shijian finally believed that Yilin, as the president, would not hold grudges over such a trivial matter. After a little encouragement and asking Li Shijian to keep up her efforts, Yilin asked him how his apple seed was doing. Unfortunately, the apple seed has no signs of germination yet. Li Shijian almost gave up. It doesn't matter, Yilin smiled, just plant it and you won't lose anything. By the way, I still have some seeds here. You can help me plant them when you have time. Seed. Li Shijian was stunned. She watched Yilin take out various seeds one bag after another from the storage space, dumbfounded. What surprised Li Shijian the most was that these seeds actually had attributes. In other words, this is a product of the other world. President, forgive me for being curious, these are all ingredients, precious ingredients. Yilin explained with a smile. After Yilin left, Li Shijian finally breathed a sigh of relief. Somehow, she always felt pressure in front of Yilin, which made her feel uncomfortable and difficult to breathe. As soon as Yilin left, she felt comfortable. When Yilin left, she left behind a pile of seeds that she had taken out from nowhere. Li Shijian carefully checked the properties of the seeds and found that they were all crops. She felt very strange, how could ordinary crops be produced in the other world? However, she didn't ask any more questions. Since it was something ordered by the president, she just had to complete it well. She is not good at fighting, and when teaming up with others to enter trials, Li Shijian often becomes the one holding her back. But now that she can work hard to realize her own value in the world's #1 guild, Li Shijian is very happy. Huh? Is it an illusion? Why has my little sheep grown longer? Not long ago, Li Shijian named the piranha she cultivated so hard little sheep. In order to breed scientifically, she records the growth data of the little sheep every day. Li Shijian took out the tape measure and placed it on the little sheep to measure. The measurement results stunned her. This piranha, after taking a bite of the president, swelled by 1 centimeter in the blink of an eye. Half an hour later, Yilin leaves the greenhouse. Meng, come here. Yilin called Molly, who was busy, into the room. Don't get me wrong. It's not his room, but a secret room where 4 gem replicators are placed. Yilin calls this place the Crystal Workshop. This is the Crystal Workshop known as the most core secret of the entire Union. Molly had long wanted to complain about the name of this room. If she hadn't known that Yilin was busy with various things, she would have suspected that Yilin was not doing his job and secretly playing some weird video games. Ahem, that's not important. Yilin looked calm, pointing to the 4 gem duplication machines that were functioning normally, and asked, according to the speed of 4 perfect crystals every 24 hours, it is still too slow. Do you think there is a way to copy these machines, a machine made using real-world technology? Molly stepped forward, wielding the wrench, knocking here, touching there. After a while, Molly looked solemn and held her chin up as she replied, on the surface, it's hard to confirm. I guess I have to dismantle one to see the structure inside. On this machine, the surface is indeed you can see the traces of the assembly of parts. You see, there are screws in these places. Since it is plugged in, there is probably a corresponding electronic structure inside. Well, does it have to be dismantled? There is a compromise. You can take a military tomography scan first. But don't hold out too much hope. Different metals have different absorption capabilities for rays. After all, science is not omnipotent, oh yes. You guys have long since stopped believing in science. Try it. Are you sure that trace amounts of radiation won't affect the function of this guy? Yilin thought for a while. Probably not. After all, this machine has no durability. In other words, normally, it would not be damaged without violent force, and he was not worried. Just do it. Molly's laboratory equipment has long been equipped with the help of Li Kai. Yilin moved one of them to Molly's laboratory. After 1 hour, Molly pointed at the perspective view displayed on the scanner and shook her head helplessly. Sure enough, the digitally reconstructed image is too blurry. Under the tomography, the interference is too great and it is impossible to clearly distinguish the structure inside. But similarly, there are good news. I am certain that there is probably a structure inside the sky that we can understand. Now, there is no other way but to take it apart and look at it. As she spoke, Molly rolled up her sleeves and curled her hair without saying a word, holding a screwdriver in her mouth, a wrench in one hand and a hammer in the other, and she was about to do something evil to this gem replicator. Yilin did not expect that this black technology gem replicator brought out from Gugu Town would also stimulate Molly's thirst for knowledge. He held down Molly, who was about to move and was excited. Don't worry, just because you said that, I thought of a person who might be able to understand the structure of this machine without dismantling it. Yilin left in a hurry. He sat in the snow, thinking about how to appear friendly but not obtrusive when he visited unexpectedly. Yilin thought about it for about 3 minutes. Yeah, the plan works. Yilin opened the communication panel and sent out what he thought was a very amiable opening statement. Hi. Xiao Zhao. Long time no see, I miss you very much. 3 chapters were added last month, all of which are 4,000-5,000 words long. After my bronchitis gets better, I will start it in the middle of the month, and I will continue to use it this month. Please support. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 709. At the same time. Beep. 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 At night. Capital. A high-rise building listed as Menjio Technology Co., Limited. This used to be the secret base of the special group. Now, this is the well-known temporary residence of the special group of guilds. Why is it called temporary? The reason is very simple. In the entire Tower of Death server, except for the Apocalypse Guild, the territory of all other guilds can only be regarded as temporary residences and not official. This is also a thorn in the hearts of other guilds. Now, in this tall building, red lights flashed and alarm bells rang through the night sky. In just 10 minutes, thousands of well-equipped soldiers surrounded the building. In the sky, armed helicopters patrolled back and forth. The atmosphere was tense and depressing. The reason for everything is that 5 minutes ago, Zhao Yulong received a series of friendly and warm brief greetings. Hi. Xiao Zhao. Long time no see, I miss you very much. How are you? Long night, no intention of sleeping. I'm passing by your place and come to bother you. See you at 10 o'clock tonight. It's agreed. Are you sure he's not joking? Zhao Taiqian raised his head and looked at the moon. Although it was not a full moon, the brightness was still okay, and he finally felt a little more at ease. Zhao Yulong looked at his father with a wry smile and said slowly, if possible, I really think he is joking. Do you think he is preparing to declare war on our special team? When Zhao Taiqian said these words, there was killing intent in his eyes. It's hard to say. Zhao Yulong is not sure either. The message Yilin sent seemed to be deliberately rhetorical and polite. It was very unlike the message that man could send. But Apocalypse Guild had just stepped on the Liang army. Only a few days later, it issued a war letter in advance and said that it would come to see them. Apart from declaring war, Zhao Yulong and Zhao Taiqian could not think of any other possibility. So they made all preparations. Others in the special group would never have thought that this sudden highest-level wartime alarm was sounded just for one man. Have you notified Lao Yu's family? Zhao Taiqian asked. Zhao Yulong was stunned for a moment, then lowered his head, as if he remembered something, and whispered, no. Why? Zhao Taiqian asked with a frown. His message was sent to me privately, and it may not really mean a declaration of war, and I can't figure out what benefits he could get from doing this. And once the Lao Yu family is involved, it will be out of control. When Zhao Taiqian heard this, he was slightly startled, then nodded vigorously and said only one word, "Okay." The elites of the special group hold their breath and lurk in the night. All the elites of the special group, including the army, waited quietly in front of this building for half an hour. During this half hour, no one dared to make any sound. There was not even private communication. Thousands of people gathered here, but you could hear a needle drop. It was so quiet that it was eerily quiet. Although they don't understand what kind of enemy they are about to face. But this highest level wartime alarm cannot be sounded casually. Even in peacetime, there would have to be hundreds of fighter jets bombing over the capital, and there would even be a strategic level aerial bombardment before an alarm of this level could be raised. Everyone, stand by. Finally. In waiting. Time flies. Night, 10 o'clock sharp. Rumble. When the second hand and the minute hand overlap, a rolling sound like the roar of a beast comes from far to near. After being extremely depressed, even the slightest movement can break one's tense nerves. Some of the soldiers were so frightened that they pulled the trigger toward the ground. But fortunately, they were well trained and did not open the safety of the firearm before receiving the order to attack, thus avoiding an accidental discharge. He came. The Zhao family father and son raised their heads at the same time and looked in the direction of the sound. I saw a dark lightning in the dark night, followed by red dazzling fireworks, speeding towards me. Oh 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 oh. The weird thing is, among the mighty sounds, there were faint sounds of strange waves. If you make any weird noises again, I will dismantle your engine, believe it or not. The sound of waves disappeared instantly. Yilin rode the night dire, drifting in the air alone. Target found. The target is moving too fast. Unable to lock on. He's floating in the air and swaying his tail. Damn it! He's too fast. The target cannot be locked. Team leader, do you want to launch an attack? Beams of searchlights are tracking in the sky. But the dire was too fast, and the searchlight on the armed helicopter couldn't track the opponent's movement. No. Don't do it. Zhao Yulong immediately issued the order in the team channel. The night dire fell from the sky and made a beautiful sudden stop and turn, leaving an arc-shaped scorch mark on the ground. What a big battle. Yilin got off the nightmare with a smile, patted the dust on his body, and walked towards Zhao Yulong like anyone else. One person. The soldiers received Zhao Yulong's order to don't do anything, but when Yilin walked in directly as if they were nothing, her heart suddenly rose to her throat and she almost vomited out. When Yilin walked by, everyone took the initiative to branch out of the way, not even daring to fart. At last, Yilin stopped when she was only 10 meters away from the Zhao father and son. The three of them were surrounded by a group of soldiers at the entrance of Menjioko, limited in the sky. The searchlights of armed helicopters lit up the space, illuminating the space as bright as day. Yiren looked like she was surrounded by a special group. But the calmness on this man's face and the faint smile on his lips made it seem as if he was not the one being surrounded, but he was surrounding everyone. Visiting old places again, meeting old friends again, things are different and people are different. A few months ago, Yilin re-entered this bustling city after killing Emperor Zuchong and fleeing the capital in embarrassment. The Zhao family and his son did not speak. Yilin raised her head, squinted her eyes slightly, and stared at the armed helicopters hovering in the sky. She smiled and said to Zhao Yulong, "I like the night because it is quiet enough. To be honest, the sound of the engines and propellers of these helicopters is too noisy. It's noisy." When Yilin's three fluttering words fell, every helicopter pilot in the air heard a buzzing tinnitus in their ears. They covered their ears in pain at the same time. Zhao Yulong's expression changed slightly, and he quickly directed the Air Force deployment to leave. A few minutes later, The sky is quiet. Our special group has no intention of becoming an enemy of your apocalypse. Things are different now. Zhao Yulong is no longer the sloppy uncle wearing beach shorts and flip-flops. He was well dressed and seemed to have grown up, matured, and had an epiphany overnight after that incident. Yilin's whole feeling changed. But I can't see it. Yilin looked around, his eyes scanning the faces of the surrounding soldiers one by one. The kind eyes and the raised corners of the mouth actually frightened the group of strictly trained soldiers, and they all took a step back, as if Yilin's smile was some kind of savage beast. Is this some kind of spiritual attack? The soldiers' reaction made Zhao Yulong secretly wonder. He was wondering if Yilin had developed any more difficult skills. He secretly complained in his heart, but he had to ask everyone to step back. What Zhao Yulong didn't expect to understand was that as Yilin's charm got lower and lower, the less people understood him. Yilin's every move and smile would remind people of all the forum discussions about the president of the Apocalypse Guild. A brutal legend. After thinking about it like this, under Yilin's kind eyes and smile, the soldiers were frightened away by him. Zhao Yulong smiled bitterly. At least this is the place where you have stayed before. Yes, Yilin's eyes showed traces of nostalgia. Everything seemed like yesterday. Although there was nothing too memorable, after all, memory represented the past. Yilin chuckled. This is also the place where Morendi once stayed. When Yilin said the three words "no enemy." Dark place. The figures of the members of the special group lurking in the darkness swayed for a moment. Zhao Yulong lowered his head and said nothing more. Zhao Taiqian glanced at his son, and he understood that Zhao Yulong was a big fan of Morendi. When Yilin mentioned Morendi, Zhao Yulong would definitely be shaken. Thinking of this, Zhao Taiqian took the initiative to go out and negotiate with Yilin. I don't understand why, as the president of the first guild, you have to visit at this time. Zhao Taiqian's brain was full of muscles, and he finally found the harmonious word visit. It was really hard for him. Zhao Taiqian's nerves were tense, always on guard against Yilin's sudden attack, and continued, I heard that your guild is having a fight with the president of the Night Alliance in the Tower of War server. I wonder how it will end. Haha, Yilin said with a smile, as if there was no one else around, with her hands behind her back, looking directly at Zhao Taiqian and his son in the dark night. I think it's time to replace the tricks you installed in our guild. Our duel with the Night Alliance has already started. It's over. Oh, forget it, it's not a big deal. I'm quite busy too, so I won't waste everyone's time. Pa! Yilin snapped her fingers. Ah 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 ah. A scream came from behind Yilin. Zhao Yulong, Zhao Taiqian, and the elites of the special group hidden in the darkness of the building discovered that there was an extra person on the seat of the motorcycle Yilin was riding. Lele. Zhao Yulong's expression suddenly changed. I saw that Lele's whole body was tied tightly, and the chains shining with red light tied Lele into a strange shape, making him unable to move except for his fingers and mouth. Zhao Yulong, who had been silent since hearing Morendi's name, swept away the depression on his face and became serious. Let Oral go. Take it easy. Yilin slowly raised the revolver, pointed it towards the sky, and said with a smile, believe me, I have no ill intentions towards Lele. I also said it in the message I sent you before, remember, long time no see, I miss you so much. I just want to invite Lele to my place to catch up on old times. As Yilin raised the gun, Zhao Yulong and Zhao Taiqian's expressions instantly froze, and they felt as if a war was about to break out. Although Lele's role in the station is dispensable, after all, Lele is also a member of the special group. Yilin kidnapped Lele in front of everyone, obviously to promote the special group. Suspicion. Besides, Yilin added, believe me, the 243 senior people hiding in your headquarters, covertly or covertly, may cause me a little trouble, but they won't keep me. It's better to, what do you think about saving some face for everyone? Boom. Yuren fired. Intense light exploded in the sky, illuminating the night sky as white as day. For a moment, under the stimulation of the bright light, everyone, including the Zhao family and his son, subconsciously closed their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, Yulin, Oulele, and the motorcycle had long disappeared. He took our people. Zhao Taiqian gritted his teeth and felt a little pain in his face. He issued orders one after another: search. Blindfold. He can't run far. Can't catch up. Zhao Yulong already knew Yilin's ability to come and go without a trace, and after a while, he accepted this fact. What he didn't expect was that his ability to come and go without a trace was even more proficient than that time. Oral was hiding in the crowd. How did he transfer Oral to the motorcycle without alerting anyone? Zhao Yulong still couldn't figure this out. But the search operation must continue. Although Zhao Yulong knew clearly that their high-profile search in the capital was just a useless effort. But he also understood his father's thoughts. The other party kidnapped people on his own territory. If they didn't do something, the special team would appear incompetent. I had known today. Zhao Yulong silently lit a cigarette, and the flickering light of the fire reflected Zhao Yulong's profile in the dark night with sharp edges and corners. After 1 hour, the search operation was declared a failure. The two people and the car disappeared completely inside and outside the capital, leaving no trace behind. Suddenly, in the guild history log, an inconspicuous piece of historical news attracted the attention of the Zhao family and his son. That historical information was 5 minutes ago. Oulele withdraws from the special group guild. This news quickly spread among the special group. The Zhao family father and son looked at each other in confusion. Ah, this? What's happening here? Not only was Oulele kidnapped, but she also voluntarily quit the guild? Quick! Ask what's going on. Zhao Taiqian didn't add Oulele as a friend, only Zhao Yulong did. Zhao Yulong also looked confused. He couldn't imagine why Oulele left the guild in just 1 hour. If Oulele is killed, there will only be a report of Oulele's death in the guild log, but not quitting the guild. This is the result of Orala's proactive operation. It was beyond Zhao Yulong's expectation. Oral replied. Also responded very quickly. He said, Zhao Yulong looked at his father with a strange look on his face, but hesitated. He said that he would lurk in the Apocalypse Guild and learn how to be an excellent spy. Wait, what do you mean? I didn't let him become a spy. It means. Zhao Yulong sighed, he joined that guild. At the same time. Snow Mountain Station. Oral closed the communication panel hesitantly. According to what Brother Lin said, he sent the news, but is this really good? I did, but... Yulin smiled and patted Oral on the shoulder. Your abilities are not popular among the special group, are you? Ah, this. Not taken seriously, right? You've been through the trial and you haven't been able to carry it with you, so you feel really bad, right? Every word Yulin said was like a steel knife thrust into Oulele's anus, making him restless. Don't worry, here you will be provided with food, shelter, and trial. There is ice and snow outside, and sunshine and beaches inside. Oulele's eyes wandered, and he was struggling internally. Look, you are an upright spy. I don't object to you reporting what happened here to Zhao Yulong. By the way, I would like to mention whether you are having a good time here, so that he can rest assured. Really, Yulin said this, and Oulele felt much better. Of course, I know your abilities very well. You are not taken seriously in the special group. Here, I treat you as my treasure. By the way, let me introduce you. This is Qianduoduo. She will be yours for the time being. Guide, well, you can understand her as a monitor, whatever you want, anyway, she will take you to familiarize yourself with everything here as soon as possible. On the side, Chienduoduo rolled his eyes. I'm not familiar with you, okay. Hey, newcomers are really troublesome. Hello, my name is Chienduoduo. Hello, my name is, Olele. Olele finally mustered up the courage. He felt that this courage was brought to him by the snow around him. Inexplicably, looking at Chienduoduo, who was similar in age to her and looked very cute, Olele felt her heartbeat in her chest soaring to 150. He felt like he was a little nervous. This kid is indeed a lolicon. Yulin raised his eyebrows and thought to himself. He has already seen through everything. Welcome to Tiankai. Yulin smiled. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 710. Half an hour later. Crystal Workshop. Olele, Molly, and Yulin came here. Sister Molly. Oral greeted Molly happily. Molly was a little surprised at first. Why did Olele come here? Yulin did not mention how he went to the capital and kidnapped Olele in front of everyone. After a few words of understatement, Yulin asked Olele to come forward and check the gem copying machine. Olele walked around the black technology machine for a while, exclaiming in wonder. It's actually a machine that can convert DP into matter. It's rare, Oral bit her lollipop and said vaguely, huh? Wait, how can black technology be plugged in? According to my understand, what is completely inconsistent with the laws of physics is called black technology. After saying that, Olele looked at Yulin, as if he wanted an explanation. I just can't figure out why this machine has to be plugged in and deducting DP at the same time to invite you over. Facing Olele's questioning look, Yulin couldn't laugh or cry. Aren't you an expert? I'll go to all lengths to invite you here. I came back just to ask you to help me. Do you really think I asked you to come back and make tea? Yulin almost spoke quickly and said the word pick up girls. Sister Molly, have you scanned it? It's been scanned, and the interference at the fault level is too great. It's impossible to fully use the instrument to judge the structure inside. According to me, it should be dismantled. Only by being more decisive can we achieve great things. If you hesitate, you will lose, he said. Then, Molly unequivocally placed the toolbox on the ground, which contained various types of screwdrivers, wrenches, hammers, and some strange tools that Yulin was not familiar with. Molly rubbed her hands vigorously, her face flushed, she was on fire. Hey, don't worry. When Olele heard this, he ignored Molly, who was busy preparing tools, and gave a thumbs up to Yulin with a proud smile. Look, this is a Z-shaped socket, that is to say, it contains electronic components. There are electronic devices in the world that I, Orala, can't handle, and they haven't been manufactured yet. Oral. Olele is awesome, hurry up. Yulin helped Olele say that shameful line. Olele was stunned, but he still nodded. Yes, Olele is awesome. Look at me. After saying that, Olele didn't hesitate and pressed the gem copying machine with one hand. The next second, Oral's mushroom hairstyle has her hair standing up and activating her abilities. From Oral's perspective, the internal structure of the machine is clearly visible, as if it has been disassembled in detail one by one and listed in front of Oral. The wiring inside is actually very simple. With his eyes closed, Olele analyzed the internal structure of the gem copying machine and said, there is no too complicated structure. Even a car repairman can probably figure it out based on the design drawing. Wait, what is this thing? While muttering to himself, Olele's expression changed, as if he had discovered something. There's something in the middle, right? Yulin said helplessly. Olele opened his eyes and said in surprise, Brother Lin, how do you know? Yulin pointed at his head. I have stepped into the extraordinary spiritual side, and I can still do simple detection. There seems to be a black hole in the center of the machine, and my perception cannot touch it. So this is the reason why you found me, Oyulele suddenly realized. He moved his palm away from the machine. After completing the analysis work, his face looked a little tired and seemed to be a lot weaker. There is indeed a structure in the center of the machine. Sister Molly, give me a pen and paper. Oyulele quickly sketched the shape of the core structure on the paper and pen. As he drew, Oyulele's brows furrowed deeper and deeper. I always feel that this thing looks so familiar, as if I've seen it somewhere. Oral's painting skills are average. It's quite interesting. Yulin stared at the spherical core structure for a long time. When Oyulele said this, he also felt that it looked familiar. Do they both look familiar? Grass. Yulin subconsciously yelled, F***ck. The sudden sound startled both Molly and Oyulele. Yulin quickly opened the interface that had been unlocked since the version update, but Yulin didn't pay much attention to it. Shop. There are many things for sale in the store. Some living supplies, equipment for novices, and some weird things. At the beginning of the version update, Yulin casually glanced at the list of goods sold in the store. Although he found it uninteresting, with his memory that was much better than ordinary people, he still wrote down the contents of the list. Yulin looked at Oral with a strange expression. Store interface, miscellaneous items, page 3, line 6. Does it look like it to you? Oyulele was stunned when he heard this. But he quickly followed Yulin's instructions and opened the corresponding location on the store interface. What Yulin was referring to was a piece of material. The price is high. A full 5000 DP piece. Universal converter. Grade rare. Effect obviously, it is a material component. Ability to convert dead points equivalently into various energy structures. Explanation: most people may not need it in their lifetime. But what if it is used? Yulin. Olele. The two of them looked at the universal converter that seemed to have been prepared for this gem copying machine in advance, and at the same time fell into deep thought and remained silent. After finishing playing with the guy, Molly, who held 8 screwdrivers of different styles between her fingers, turned her head and was ready to do it hard. When she turned around, she saw 2 people with constipated expressions. Molly looked confused. In addition to the universal converter, Yulin also discovered something. In the store list, the list of items for sale has changed slightly. What surprised Yulin the most was that the store was openly selling a thing called Payment Assistant. It's a very compact device, placed on the table, and with just a touch of your palm, you can enter the corresponding points and complete the transaction. Yulin immediately told Li Kai about this. There are also members of the guild who are planning to open a store in a commercial street. This world is quietly changing. Before the end of the world, it seems that various changes taking place centered on the apostles are silently changing human life habits. Perhaps many people have gradually forgotten what the world looked like in the past. Only at the moment. Anyway, the matter was resolved. It was so easy that Yulin found it incredible. It's as if everything is set up. As soon as Oral came, he analyzed the structure of the gem copying machine and sold the key core props in the store, so all the problems were easily solved. Next, as long as Oral draws a detailed structural diagram and purchases a large number of universal converters in the store, a large number of gem copying machines can be produced. What Yulin currently lacks is not the relevant technology, nor the corresponding equipment, nor the corresponding talents. What he lacks is death point. Lots of death points. This is an era where money is wasted to death. Everywhere requires a lot of points. Yulin found out. The 600,000 he cheated from the Liang army seemed to be too little. In the face of the huge demand in the future, these 600,000 are really a drop in the bucket. Yulin becomes more and more curious about what is the truth hidden behind everything. God. Game. Boat. River. Yilin was trapped in it, as if alone in a boat, unable to see the full picture of the storm. But he was sure that there must be something stirring in the dark in the center of the whirlpool. But at present, it seems that this mastermind is targeting himself. Yilin lowered his head and rubbed his chest. On the chest, in the eye sockets of the death-branded skull, the bat pattern is vivid and seems to be laughing slyly. Yilin couldn't help but recall Green's weird laughter. Along with this, Yilin was reminded of what Green said. After solving the source of the crystal, we can finally start to build a real resident. Overall, everything is going in a good direction. After Oda Mai returned to Yingdao, she sent a message with only 2 words on it. Nothing's wrong. Yilin estimated that Xiao Wu meant, I'm fine, don't worry. That's a bit more subtle. The gem copying machine plan was officially launched. Yilin left this matter to Li Ziyuki to handle in person. After spending another 2 days, Yilin accompanied Ling Yiyi, basking in the sun on the beach, and talking about the trivial things that happened during this time. Ling Yiyi listened quietly. Yilin didn't notice the faint glint in Ling Yiyi's eyes. She is a good listener. When she listened quietly, she never interrupted Yiren's words. You want to go to Europe, alone? After finishing speaking, Ling Yiyi leaned against Yilin gently. There is no special relationship, the two of them just rely on each other. Yilin hasn't seen Ling Yiyi for a long time. Nor was she alone with Ling Yiyi. After being in Kanzaki City, Yilin had a conversation with Muto Yilin, and Yilin admitted that there was a problem with Ling Yiyi's existence. But looking at Ling Yiyi's behavior, which was no different from ordinary people, Yilin could not suspect that there was something strange about Ling Yiyi. Yilin sighed softly, hiding everything in her heart. Well, don't tell them, I plan to go alone. Oh, Ling Yiyi raised the corners of her mouth with a hint of amusement, who are the them you are talking about? Stop asking questions knowingly. Yilin also knew that Ling Yiyi was teasing in her words, so she smiled and waved her hands without feeling embarrassed. In front of Ling Yiyi, he could always find soothing tranquility in his heart. Yilin spent another 3 days at the station preparing a warehouse full of dishes. Fortunately, his soul cooking technique can turn it into a card after successfully cooking it. It doesn't matter whether it is an attribute or not. The key is to facilitate storage. After 3 days of cooking, Yilin rubbed herself for more than half an hour while taking a shower, but she still couldn't completely remove the smell of various dishes. Yilin could guess this from Guza's expression. Returning to Hating City, the dog swooped down, clutching Yilin's skirt with both claws, silently expressing his inner joy and crying like a dog. Dad! Dad! Wanger won't play with Schwetter anymore. We'll. I'm accompanying you. Yilin quietly stuffed a handful of cooking cards into Guza, pulled off Wang Tiandi's claws that were pulling on her body, and kicked Guza back to Schwetter. Wanger. Schwetter hummed a crisp song, dragging Wang Tiandi's tail and drifting away. A deep wood-shaped drag mark was left on the ground. Call. Yilin breathed a long sigh of relief. It's really great that this daughter can get along so well with Wanger. Yilin inquired quietly. It seemed that while he was dealing with the guild affairs, the arrogant Night King was still standing outside the door, refusing to leave. She seemed to be afraid that if someone didn't pay attention, Yilin would run away. Or perhaps, she wanted to use this method to remind Yilin that she was still here and not to forget the agreement between them. Clearly, there are only 2 options at the moment. Either kill Myrian completely or go to the next server, otherwise this matter is not over. What nonsense is this? It's all the fault of the damn Dawn section. Yilin squatted on the top of the great engineer tower and sighed. He silently opened the communication panel and sent a message to Li Kai. From today onwards, the Dawn sect will be listed as a hostile guild. Once discovered, we will beat them to death. When this short message was successfully sent, Yilin felt a lot more depressed and relieved. He had always been the only one who cheated others. It was rare for someone to cheat him once. How could he do it without paying a heavy price? After all, Yilin is no longer alone now. The Li family used to be deeply rooted in all parts of the country and had many eyes. Li Kai's energy is much greater than Yilin imagined. Yilin doesn't need to worry about this. Yilin was too lazy to pay attention to the order he issued as the president of the world's #1 guild. Combined with the energy of the Li family, it would cause a huge disturbance in the apostle world. So, Yilin stood up, looked at the city below, and said with a smile, "Let's go." 3 hours later, 3 men in cloaks came to a lake with clear water and sparsely populated areas. According to old maps, after crossing Lake Bokhash, we soon reached the border. Yilin put away a paper book of World Travel Guide. This book is a treasure on Li Kai's bookshelf. Yilin took it out before leaving, maybe it could be used. Oh, what a delightful sight. Next to Yilin, another person opened the hood of his cloak to breathe, facing the lake, the blue water and the blue sky, and said with a smile. Yilin rolled her eyes. Water. Miriam's hair trembled, and she stretched her neck to look into the distance for a moment. She suddenly turned around and flicked her wrist. Under the feet of Yilin and Gu Tianqing, an invisible weapon carved a deep ravine. Please wait here for a moment. Once you cross the line, I will kill you with one strike of my sword. After saying that, Miriam hurried towards the lake. Her movement was like an armored vehicle. After Miriam left, Gu Tianqing shrugged. She really trusts us. Yilin sighed softly, not wanting to talk to Gu Tianqing, but after all, Gu Tianqing was hers now, so she glanced lazily at the unicorn not far away, and while setting up a bonfire, she said, "Don't forget her mount. I have a very high IQ. I just want to take a shower. I have been blocking my door for so many days. The armor is so airtight that I am almost growing mushrooms. It's time for a good wash. Wash well, it's so good to wash." In the distance, Miriam, who was running fast, stumbled and almost fell into the lake while taking off her clothes. She didn't know if she heard Yilin's words. Besides, Yilin speculated that Miriam did not have confidence in them, but in her own sword. The unicorn glared at Yilin angrily, breathing heavily from its nostrils. But it dared not move when it was angry. Marinated honey chicken wings. Grilled squid tentacles. Miscellaneous bacteria in bunches. The greenhouse produced by Li Shizhen grows pure natural organic vegetables. Sprinkle with my special Ren brand spices. That's it. On the campfire, Yilin carefully used a barbecue fork to skewer various stocked ingredients. While controlling the fire, Yilin casually used telekinesis to lay an invisible soundproof cover around the two of them. Say it. Yilin looked at Gu Tianqing. Tell me the reason why you shamelessly want to follow me. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 711. Chapter 704 Cross-Region Journey, July monthly ticket plus 13 updates, 4,400 words. Before going out, Yilin also encountered a strange thing. A mysterious person handed a letter to the station gatekeeper. On the envelope, in printed font, it says, 10th personal letter from the president of the Apocalypse Guild. When asked later, the guard said he was a strange man who didn't speak and had a strange mask on his face, as if a knife had cut him from his forehead to his chin. Yilin frowned and opened the letter. There are only 2 words in the letter plus a punctuation mark, also printed. Dip her. 2 seconds after reading the letter. Shua. Yilin expressionlessly tore up the letter. Crush. Yulin found Myrian at the entrance of the great engineer tower, who had been blocking the door for many days, with a strong resentment emanating from her head. Said it was time to leave. Miriam's eyes widened at that time, thinking that Yulin was deceiving her again. After all, the King of Knights believed it. When the two of them quietly walked towards the west of the city, they met Gu Tianqing sitting on the roadside, playing tarot cards. Gu Tianqing looked at the two people who were about to leave with a smile. My divination tells me that I will have a spontaneous trip. I think you won't mind having an extra companion on your journey. That's how it happened. Finally, Gu Tianqing also followed. Gu Tianqing spread his hands, and Yulin called him a shameless person not to be outdone. Gu Tianqing responded tit for tat with his words and responded with a smile, I seem to be starting to understand why you are so annoying. I'm just telling the truth. Yulin said. He knew that everything Gu Tianqing did had deep meaning. Just like when he appeared in Kanyang City, Gu Tianqing was looking for something. So he agreed to Yulin's invitation and arrived in Kanyang City to help. But as a result, Kanyang City suddenly changed, and he realized that the situation was not right, so he left decisively without hesitation. Ha, Gu Tianqing smiled, it's fate that guides me. Forget it, Yulin didn't expect to get anything practical out of this old man's mouth. He turned a few barbecue forks, adjusted the heat, and said without hiding his thoughts, I want you to follow me. Being around makes me feel more at ease. Why bother? Gu Tianqing shook her head. During the confrontation between the two, far away, Miriam had already finished taking a shower, with her wet blonde hair hanging down, changed into clean clothes, and walked over quickly. I saw her taking off her sturdy skirt armor, wearing an elegant women's white shirt on her upper body, a black tie around her neck, and a dark pleated skirt on her lower body. Just by looking at her clothes, it is difficult to connect the current Myrian with the Night King who blocked the entrance to Yulin's territory not long ago. President Yi, Mr. Gu, it's getting late, let's go as early as possible, oh. Miriam walked over in black Gothic wide top shoes. But midway through her words, the stubborn hair on her forehead twitched strangely, and then she pointed directly at the fragrant barbecue skewers on the bonfire, and she was stunned. After staying for 3 seconds, Yulin and Gu Tianqing could only feel their eyes blurred. Miriam burst out with astonishing agility and sat down by the bonfire. Ahem. Miriam sat on the ground in a standard posture, clenching her fists and placing them on her knees. There was no emotion on her stern face. Yulin's strange eyes stared at the dull hair on Miriam's head, thoughtfully. He slowly turned the barbecue fork in his hand and moved it slightly to the left. The dull hair on Miriam's head tilted to the left at the same time. The barbecue fork moved further to the right, and the dull hair on her head also tilted to the right. So amazing. Gu Tianqing also noticed the magic of the bunch of stupid hair and expressed his amazement. In silence, Myrian finally couldn't help but speak. Dear President Yi, may I ask, is this lunch specially prepared for us? When Miriam said this, she subconsciously licked her lips and turned her head deliberately to cover up her swallowing of saliva. Yulin suppressed laughter and quickly turned the barbecue fork, it's not ready yet, just wait a little longer. Miriam heard this and closed her mouth. But her body swaying slightly up and down betrayed the anxiety deep in her heart. Yulin closed her eyes. He was concentrating on feeling the rhythm of the ingredients. Ding. After a while, the barbecue fork lit up with varying degrees of light. The brightest one, the dry-grilled squid tentacles, actually lit up in 2 colors. This sudden special effect made the King of Knights, who was waiting hard on the side, open his little mouth into an O shape in surprise and couldn't close it for a long time. She dared to swear by the glory of the king that this was the first time in her life that she had seen food with special effects. Okay, let's eat. Yulin indicated that it was time to eat. You're welcome. Miriam burst out with astonishing agility, reaching out and grabbing a bunch of chicken wings that she had been staring at for a long time. The simple grilled chicken wings with honey sauce are grilled to an attractive golden brown on the outside under Yilin's perfect fire control. The solidified honey juice is evenly coated, and after being heated at high temperature, it turns into a color similar to amber. A layer of crystal clear honey wraps this chicken wing like a work of art. Just looking at it is a pleasure to watch. The tangy aroma lingers in the air for a long time. In addition to the original aroma of roasted wings and the sweetness of honey, there is also a unique taste, light, like the depth of the forest and the vastness of the sea. Miriam's mouth was full of juice. While eating, he exclaimed, "Oh, so delicious. This is the smell that cleanses the soul. Wait a minute, it actually has attributes. How is that possible? Impossible. It's so delicious. Impossible." Soon, the food Yilin worked so hard to prepare was all gone. Most of it went into Miriam's stomach. If you think about it carefully, during this period of time, Miriam stayed behind closed doors in Hating City, eating dry food and drinking water every day. It was very difficult for her. Looking at Miriam, who was still unfinished, Yilin seemed to see favorability and prompts popping up above Miriam's head. No one knows how to increase favorability better than Yilin. In this regard, he is an expert. "I've wanted to ask this a long time ago." Yilin stared at the stupid hair on Miriam's head. "What kind of props are inserted into your hair?" "Huh." Miriam elegantly took out a silk scarf, wiped her mouth, and was stunned when she heard this. "When you are angry, your hair will curl up. When your mood fluctuates, your hair will tremble. When you are expressionless. When you find delicious food, it will search and locate it like a radar. Based on my observation, it is difficult for me not to doubt that it's a prop." Originally, Miriam didn't want to answer. But Yilin gave too much in this meal. Miriam hesitated for a moment and said honestly, "This is the bloodline of the Pendragon family, the honor passed down from generation to generation." "Glory?" Yilin looked slightly startled. "Yes, this is the glory of the king." Every time Miriam talked about the glory of the king, her expression and tone were like a naughty child who grabbed a lollipop in a fight, full of arrogance and pride. Yilin silently looked away from the bunch of stupid hair. But a bold idea came to my mind involuntarily. Will this strange bunch of king's glory grow back after it is pulled out? Or maybe other hair is sticking up? After the three of them had a simple soulful lunch by the Bokhash Lake, they rested for a while and hit the road again. In the end, Yilin suppressed her bold idea. According to Miriam's temperament, Yilin really started to pluck out the stupid hair. She really didn't know what happened. She is too serious. Although it was just a bunch of hair, Yilin didn't want to cause any misunderstanding at this juncture. To put it bluntly, if it triggers an all-out war between the two guilds, it will be difficult to handle. Head west from Hating City. The population is becoming increasingly sparse. The further west you go, the lower the population density becomes. Occasionally I passed some local towns, and they looked lifeless inside. Nowadays, many cities have declared independence and are occupied by some senior people. Yilin and the other three took a detour in order to avoid causing unnecessary conflicts. If Yilin was alone, he could directly open the portal and reach the border. But considering that Nightmare hadn't been out for a walk for a long time, and both Gu Tianqing and Miriam had high-speed transportation, Yilin just rode Nightmare as a way to travel. Incidentally, Gu Tianqing's means of transportation is a jet skateboard. I don't know where he got it from. Speaking of which, during the trial in the Caribbean, Yilin witnessed Gu Tianqing riding a jet skateboard on the sea. It's a mobile prop that can be used both on land and sea. Yilin thought to himself, this guy really has a lot of things hidden. It just so happens that Gu Tianqing is exposed a little bit. Another hour passed. In front of Yilin and Gu Tianqing, a red sky fell from the sky, dividing the world into two halves. Boundary. This is the boundary that only the apostles can see. The red sky curtain, when you look closer, is almost composed of densely packed words "no pass." On the other side of the zone server boundary is the area where the Tower of War is located. To be honest, in Yulin's memory, he had no impression of the other side. In his 2 lifetimes, he had never set foot on the land next door. Let me explain in advance. Yulin stepped off the dire and came to the border. He took out a card and prepared to crush it. He said to Miriam, "I only brought a temporary pass. In other words, I only brought a temporary pass. I can stay with you for 7 days. Once the 7 days are over, no matter how things are done, don't come to my territory to block the door because of Avalon." "Oh, dear President Yi, you don't have to worry." Miriam's delicate facial features were a little more sincere. It seems that the soul food that Yulin made casually offset the frustration Miriam suffered in hating city. She quickly took out a card from the storage space and handed it to Yulin. "I have already prepared." Yulin: "I never expected that apostles could trade between servers in different regions." What made Yulin even more unexpected was that what Miriam handed to Yulin was actually an epic prop. Single-person permanent cross-region pass. Level epic. Effect: after use, you can obtain permanent access rights to a designated area server. Remaining times, 1/1. Explanation: with it, you will be able to come and go freely in unfamiliar areas, and enter and exit as you please. What the hell? Yulin covered her forehead hard. "I'm just curious, do you have a lot of these things?" Yulin asked as she crushed the epic item card without feeling any distress. Miriam shook her head. "No, permanent cross-region passes are very precious. Apart from this one, I only have 3 left." Gu Tianqing. Yulin. The two of them were silent at the same time, looking at each other. "This is an epic prop, oh my god." After Yulin crushed the card, a corresponding prompt appeared in front of her eyes. "Apostle 1010 has been detected and is applying for cross-region permission. Pass permission level, permanent. Please select the designated cross-region traffic zone server. Tower of War. Apostle 1010 registered in the Tower of Death will be granted permanent access to the Tower of War. Do you want to continue? Yes/no?" Yes. After using the permanent cross-region pass, the no-pass red light curtain in front of him took the initiative to separate when Yulin approached, making way for a road large enough to accommodate Yulin's passage. At this time, Miriam and Yulin looked at Gu Tianqing. Gu Tianqing smiled slightly, took out a card and crushed it. "Don't worry, I brought the ticket." Yulin complained, "It's obviously a quick trip, but I think you're well prepared." "That's because I'm always preparing." Gu Tianqing responded fluently to Yulin's every word. Under the leadership of Miriam, Yulin and Gu Tianqing crossed the light curtain at the same time. The moment she crossed the light screen, Yulin received another series of warnings. This sudden warning made Yulin stunned for a moment, and then she couldn't help but laugh. "Interesting." "Oh." Gu Tianqing noticed the change in Yulin's expression. "Nothing. Just now, when Yulin stepped into a strange land as the leader of the guild, he received a warning from the tower. Should we issue a cross-server announcement and activate the undifferentiated guild war mode? In the undifferentiated guild battle mode, if you kill the enemy apostle, you will get 200% of the honor points. However, in this mode, the location will be reported to all members of the enemy server in a special way every 48 hours. The honor store product list has been updated." Of course Yulin refused. He and Gu Tianqing were just 2 people. If we really start this deceptive indiscriminate guild war, wouldn't it be no different from the money-giving boy? Yulin is not so arrogant as to think that she can challenge an entire district server on her own. That's too bloated. From this point of view, it seems that only as a guild leader can you issue such a declaration of war for the whole server. It is equivalent to a slap-in-the-face invasion, which is quite domineering, but the consequences are also very serious. Risks and benefits exist at the same time. When Myrian and the others came, they should have received corresponding prompts. Myrian glanced at Yilin silently. Obviously she understood, Yiren's words had deep meaning, but she didn't say much. It was also the first time for Yilin to cross servers, and she felt fresh. He tried various functions. Communication functions are restricted. Not surprising, it's across regions. Yilin casually opened the Apostle panel and took a look, and also discovered subtle changes. What has changed is not his attribute values, but the names of the attributes. In psychic energy value became magic value. Strength became strength. Agility became dexterity. Spirit becomes magic. Will became to magic power. The two attributes luck and charm have not changed. Oh, that's interesting. Behind Yilin, Gu Tianqing also moved his fingers in the void in front of him. He seemed to have discovered something strange after crossing the zone, and his smile became even wider. Yilin looked at it for a while, but nothing else changed much. His Apocalypse module is still there, and all skills and enhancements can be used normally. This has not weakened or enhanced Yilin's strength in any way. Yilin accidentally discovered that many practical props had been updated in the honor store. There are sentry guards, incendiary bombs, smoke bombs, small fog of war, etc., and they are expensive and require tens of thousands of honor points to use them. In addition, there are some complete sets of equipment. The only one Yilin can see currently is a rare set, which requires a large amount of honor points to redeem. Isn't this just copying the settings in the game? Yilin finished trying it out and closed various interfaces. But it seems very interesting. Yilin was looking forward to this cross-region trip more and more. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 712. This is Yilin's first serious cross-server experience. Yilin's first impression of the Tower of War server was that it had a small population. Before the arrival of the four towers, many countries in Europe were known for their low population density and heavily skewed age structure. Europe is a continent made up of many small countries. The three of them rode their respective mounts and quickly headed northwest. On the way, Yilin passed by a small town and grabbed a few bottles of red wine in a supermarket to fill up the fuel for the night dyer. Fortunately, night dyer is not picky and has no requirements on the type of fuel. So much so that Yilin even doubted that even adding water to Nightmare's fuel tank would be enough. En route, Yilin casually asked about the Magicians Association, intending to collect information in advance in case of emergency. The destination is London. The Clock Tower, the headquarters of the Magicians Association, is located on the outskirts of London. After Myrian finished speaking, she seemed to have completed the introduction work and let out a long sigh of relief. Yilin was puzzled. Is this, the introduction finished? On the side, Gu Tianqing smiled and took over the topic. If I remember correctly, the legendary Magicians Association was an organization that used to gather occult experts from all over the world for academic exchanges. Gu Tianqing started to speak, and Yilin looked at Gu Tianqing calmly. Gu Tianqing smiled and continued, the Magicians Association has a long history, even more than 2,000 years ago. It can be traced back to BC, but those are all legends, and it is difficult to tell whether they are true or false. More modern ones, I heard that they were 700. The previous witch hunting movement seemed to be an attack on the Magicians Association, but the truth has been buried in written history. After that, the Magicians Association gradually disappeared from history and rarely appeared in the world again. However, as far as I know, there are unexplained disasters in several countries that seem to be inextricably related to the Magicians Association. It's like the Sky-fire attack in a certain city on Yingdao 100 years ago. President, if you look at me like this, I will misunderstand you. Yilin calmly looked away and chuckled, I just didn't expect you knew a lot. It made the president laugh. I just like to inquire about some weird and interesting things when I was traveling around the world. Miriam did not see the hidden quarrel between Yilin and Gu Tianqing. Her hair trembled slightly to show respect, and she exclaimed, Mr. Gu knows so much. Disaster. After listening to Gu Tianqing's words, Yilin noticed that Yilin used a special vocabulary when describing events related to the Magicians Association. You mean, the Magicians Association isn't a good thing either? Who knows? Gu Tianqing shrugged with a sly smile and replied, oh, who cares? It seems that Miriam doesn't know much about this organization that specializes in occult science. Or maybe she is not good at words and doesn't know where to start. In short, that's all. The three of them stopped talking in detail and just went on their way. They no longer stopped in any town, crossing plains, crossing rivers, and passing through mountains and rivers. Finally, under the guidance of Miriam, Yilin and his party entered the borders of the British Empire and arrived at the outskirts of London at nightfall. The outskirts of London are deserted. A straight asphalt road passed through the thick weeds, with many abandoned vehicles on it, completely blocking the traffic artery. There are many private single-family houses along the national highway. However, these houses have fallen into disrepair and have long been empty. In the dark night, crows squawked loudly and circled back and forth in the sky. There were rotting, nameless corpses. Some died in the car, some died in the wilderness, and some were dismembered on the road. The scattered corpses died in different ways. But the only similarity is that they seem to have been dead for a while, and the carrion on their bodies has been sucked away by scavengers such as crows or maggots, leaving only bones and flesh connected. In the hollow eye sockets of some corpses, clusters of white maggots squirmed back and forth, moving in and out. At night, as the three of them went deeper, the smell of corpses, rot, and blood mixed together and filled the air. Yilin silently took out a piece of sea salt honey rose pollen crispy fried ham sausage from the storage space, crushed the card, and the aroma wafted out. He alone put the ham sausage into his mouth and started chewing it. Gudong. The sound of swallowing hard came from beside Yilin. Gudong. Another one. But this time the voice was close to my ears. Louder. Yilin didn't need to look back, he had already guessed that Miriam's food sensing radar behind him was pointing directly at his ham sausage, accurately positioning it. President Yi, I am willing to exchange for rare items. Please let me taste your craftsmanship. Here. Miriam happily exchanged a rare card for a piece of ham, turned her back to Yilin and Gu Tianqing, and started eating. Yilin noticed that although Miriam didn't make any sounds or body movements when eating ham, the stupid hair on her forehead stood straight when she took the first bite. Yilin wanted to pluck out those stupid hairs more and more. That bunch of shiny golden hair seems to be her treasure. Will you get angry if you pull it out? Sometimes, once human thoughts arise, they are like parasites that are difficult to remove from the mind. Finally, Yilin struggled to look away. Once again he gave up on the tempting idea. Inexplicably, the two words written on the mysterious note he received before departure flashed through Yilin's mind, pick her up. Yilin shook her head vigorously and threw this ridiculous idea away. What the hell? When Miriam was about to start eating, she already understood why Yilin took out the ham sausage to eat in the wilderness full of rotting corpses at this time. Because that sea salt honey rose pollen crispy fried ham sausage has attributes. And it's a rare dual attribute. First, it can deodorize, second, it increases staying power. Incredibly delicious. After finishing her meal in 2 or 3 quick bites, Miriam felt as if she was a little stronger. She could easily demolish a building, but now she had the illusion that she could easily demolish an unfinished building. I'm losing weight. Gu Tianqing saw that Yilin had no intention of giving him snacks, so she smiled and gave herself a step up. That's just right. After Yilin finished eating the soul food, she wiped her mouth, glanced at Gu Tianqing, and left. After the interlude, just as the three were preparing to walk the final journey to the legendary clock tower, Yilin suddenly asked, "How far is the clock tower?" Miriam elegantly took out the silk scarf and wiped her mouth. She was satisfied and in a good mood. She answered all questions and said, "We will reach the outskirts of London after another 10 kilometers. Gu Tianqing smiled, no wonder it started to fog. If I guess correctly, Yilin raised a finger and pointed in a certain direction, is the clock tower in this direction? The proud king of knights was startled, how do you know? Yilin blinked, I told you, I guessed it. Miriam believed it. The three of them were back on the road. It's just 10 kilometers away and you'll be there in the blink of an eye. Halfway. Gu Tianqing quietly sent a private message to Yilin, President, you have discovered it as expected. I don't believe you got it through divination. Your spiritual attributes have exceeded the limit. Ah, I accidentally exposed it. Gu Tianqing smiled with a smile on his face, his lips moved slightly, and he gave an insidious fake smile. Please remain silent, otherwise even if you are extraordinary, I will still have a way to beat you up. I don't know if Yilin's threat is in place. Gu Tianqing really obeyed and shut up. Forget about Gu Tianqing's reason for deliberately exposing his extraordinary spiritual attributes. Yilin was even more curious about the clock tower and the magician Myrian mentioned. Spiritual apostles, in a certain sense, have very keen perceptions. This is even more true for the extraordinary spiritual side. Yilin faintly noticed that there seemed to be a cold prying gaze coming from deep in that direction. After confirming the location of the clock tower from Myrian, Yilin was 90% sure that the people at the clock tower had already known that Myrian would take them to the clock tower at this time. Peeping from 10 kilometers away? How did you do it? This is far beyond the limits of human vision. Not to mention in this foggy night with reduced visibility. It would be too boring if it were just the apostles' skills. A happy smile appeared on Yilin's lips. 10 minutes later. The faint reflection of the dark motorcycle tore through the thick fog and cut through the night. The exhaust sound is high and low, strong and weak, wheezing and trembling, just like a high and loud song. It seems to be announcing to this strange land that a kind man from the east is about to arrive. At the end of the road, there is a Y-shaped three-way intersection. Directly ahead of the fork in the road is a mountain peak shrouded in thick fog. Next to the fork in the road, there is a rusty road sign. The wooden pole used to fix the iron road sign was covered with moss. It was unknown how many years ago it was made. It might just be considered an antique. The eternal border. Yilin waved his hand and put away the Cybertronian gentleman who was about to run out of fuel and panting alone. He stepped forward curiously and read in a low voice the obvious printed fonts on the road signs. Above the font, there is a pattern that looks like an antique pocket watch. Clearly, the destination has been reached, no doubt about it. Yo, there seems to be a line of small words here. Yilin stretched out his hand to wipe away the dust and rust on the road sign. In an inconspicuous corner, it seemed that someone had carefully carved a line of scrawled handwriting with a knife. Permanent inheritance of mystery as knowledge. That sentence is said to be the origin of the Magicians' Association. Yilin and Miriam looked at Gu Tianqing, who broke the silence at the same time. Although Myrian's face was expressionless, Yilin's reaction when she noticed the bunch of stupid hair on top of Myrian's head could be guessed. As a native Night King, Myrian didn't seem to know the origin of this proverb, stupid hair. Trembling 3 times is the usual reaction of stupid radar when it is slightly surprised. By the way, according to Yilin's secret observation, as Myrian's level of surprise increased, the number of times Damao shook increased accordingly. Yilin was curious about what kind of strange family inheritance allowed Miriam to have such an enviable special physique. Gu Tianqing noticed the glances from Yilin and Miriam at the same time. He smiled slightly, spread out his white gloves, and explained sincerely, "I heard a friend of mine mention it." Yilin was silent. He found that Gu Tianqing was talking about making friends out of nothing and girls out of nothing, without any sense of shame. Gu Tianqing smiled. He didn't seem to care whether others believed what he said. Lying has long become one of his instincts or skills. He looked away from the faces of the two people, looked at the mountains shrouded in night fog directly behind the road sign, and asked in a low voice, "This is the clock tower?" "But, where is the clock tower?" Yilin knew very well that Gu Tianqing was asking questions knowingly, so she didn't bother to pay attention to him. On the outskirts of London, 10 kilometers away from here, where they paused for a moment, if the gaze they felt really came from here, then obviously, when they arrived here, someone would come out to greet them in the clock tower. There might even be a grand welcome ceremony, with a group of well-dressed welcoming girls lining up neatly and saying in unison, "Welcome." Miriam didn't understand Gu Tianqing. She thought Gu Tianqing was really asking. As the host, she shook her head gently and answered proactively, "I don't know either." Yilin glanced at the King of Knights curiously and asked, "You've never been in?" Miriam shook her head again. She didn't hide anything, but she said something that Yilin couldn't fully understand at the moment. The Magician Association, no, it should be said that the clock tower, under normal circumstances, is very exclusive of us. Miriam had just finished speaking. The dense fog in the depths suddenly tore from the middle. It was as if there was a hand pushing away the thick fog. The sound of leather shoes treading lightly on the ground came from deep in the mountains. A tall and thin figure wearing a black tuxedo slowly walked out. I saw that the man had fair skin, beautiful eyebrows and big eyes, a straight nose, and exotic facial features that were pure and indifferent. He has short brown hair just above his ears, smooth and straight. Over his left eye, the man in the tuxedo wears an eye patch, as if he were a one-eyed dragon. The noble descendant of the Night King, Miriam Artoria ex Pendragon, and the two strangers from afar, welcome you to the clock tower as guests. I was ordered to come to the eternal border welcome you. In the next period of time, I will be responsible for arranging your itinerary in the clock tower. When this person spoke, Yilin discovered that the above description was slightly deviated from the real situation. It should be she, not he. She is a woman. The tuxedo butler gently closed his eyes, put his right hand on his chest, saluted the three of them with standard aristocratic etiquette, and introduced himself in a calm tone that seemed to be standard in the service industry. "You can call me Cerberus Si. Please follow me, the entrance to the clock tower is right here." After the tuxedo butler, who called himself Cerberus, spoke softly, the thick fog seemed to come alive and actually parted a path in front of them. Yilin's pupils narrowed. That mountain was suddenly leveled at some point. A small road winds through the middle of the mountain wall, and there seems to be a basin inside. What originally looked like a peak turned into an ancient bell tower. Inside there appears to be a huge basin structure. There are many tall buildings, but for some reason, it looked like a mountain from the outside just now. In the blink of an eye, the scenery changed. Is this magic? Yilin thought to himself, remaining silent for a moment. Miriam, however, followed Cerberus without any hesitation. It seems that for the sake of her so-called king's glory, even if there are mountains of swords, seas of fire, traps and cesspits in front of her, she can happily cross them without frowning. He is truly worthy of being second in the world. Yilin praised silently and sighed softly. He suppressed a few doubts swirling in his mind and followed. Anyway, Miriam was in front of him, so what was he afraid of? Cerberus Gu Tianqing followed Yilin and laughed softly. In ancient Greek mythology, the name of the three-headed dog of hell. Yilin said, "There is no need to show your erudition at this time, it is something that everyone knows." "Haha, that's right." Gu Tianqing suddenly stopped talking. The winding path continued forward, Cerberus leading the way, and before they knew it, the thick fog around them dissipated. The three of them walked through the stone steps, which were seamlessly connected. Their next step stepped on the thick wooden floor, making the sound of creak, creak, creak footsteps. In the blink of an eye, Yilin's surrounding scene changed. From the wilderness, we came to a deep corridor. On both sides of the corridor, elegant dark wood tables were placed with flowers, vases, and other elegant decorations. Beautiful golden relief patterns, as decorative patterns, are vividly embellished on the handrails on both sides of the corridor. Oil paintings of unknown ages are hung on the walls on both sides. The characters on them are lifelike, graceful, and luxurious. Artoria X, President Yi from the East, and Mr. Gu, who have deep connections with the gypsies, my master already knows your purpose. The master has prepared clean and suitable clothes for you. Please take a bath, change your clothes and wash off the dust. In 20 minutes, I will take you to the VIP room to meet the owner. After Cerberus finished speaking, he tapped 3 times on the wall on one side of the corridor. A door appears. Cerberus opened the door gracefully, stood by the door, bowed and motioned for the 3 of them to enter. Grateful. Miriam was not afraid, straightened her hair, and entered bravely. The door is closed. Cerberus was next to him again and opened the second door. Gu Tianqing and Yilin looked at each other. Gu Tianqing chuckled, President, I'll go first. I've wanted to take a good bath for a long time. See you later. Finally, it was Yilin's turn. Cerberus knocked on a door from the opposite wall and respectfully invited Yilin to enter. Yilin smiled slightly and stepped in. But just when Yilin was about to enter the room, Cerberus suddenly grabbed Yilin and reminded him expressionlessly, President Yi from the East, please pay attention to the time. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 713. With a bang behind him, the door was locked. Yilin simply twisted it but did not unscrew it. He gave up. If you don't have to refuse, just accept it. Inside the room is a luxurious bathroom with an area of approximately 30 square meters. At the end of the spotless mahogany floor is a large solid gold bathtub that can accommodate 5 or 6 people. The golden light made Yilin squint her eyes. On the stone walls with clear lines, lifelike animal reliefs spit out steaming water from their mouths. Although Yilin felt quite uncomfortable, she had to say that the decoration here was really luxurious. There is a European classical luxury atmosphere everywhere. In the corner of the room, there is a thread-carved wardrobe. Yilin opened it and saw many new sets of clothes inside. The clothes come in a variety of styles, including modern formal suits, tuxedos, Victorian aristocratic attire, and even lace princess dresses. By the way, why do you even have skirts? Is it to satisfy the weird hobbies of special people? Yilin randomly picked a casual suit and hung it on the shelf next to the bathtub. While taking off her clothes, Yilin lowered her head, thoughtfully. He opened his palm, and in his palm was a crumpled note. This is the note that the tuxedo butler, Cerberus, quietly stuffed into Yilin's palm when he grabbed Yilin. Yilin silently spread out his senses, and after confirming that there were no shameless prying eyes around him, he carefully unfolded the paper ball. 3 letters were written on it in scrawled ink. Run. The translation of this word is very subtle. Roll. Walk. Move. This word seems to have different meanings in different contexts. Yilin flicked her wrist and put the strange note into the storage space. After Yilin stripped naked, she lay comfortably in the bath water with a suitable temperature, washing away the dust and fatigue along the way. While taking a bath, Yilin was distracted, thinking about the meaning of the note. He crushed a card, and a glass of iced drink appeared out of thin air, floating next to Yilin. After a while, Yilin felt that it was not satisfying enough, so she took out a fruit plate that had been prepared in advance, floated on the water, and drifted with the current in the bathtub. "Master, do you want a back rub?" Gayajimimi ran out at some point, covering her eyes shyly with her hands, but her bright eyes were accidentally exposed between her fingers. "Let's wait until you can rub it." Yilin soaked in hot bath water, drank iced drinks, and ate fresh fruits, enjoying herself inexplicably. In addition to Gayajimimi, Yilin called out Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxiu at the same time. Obviously, except for Gayajimimi, Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxiu seemed to be a little reluctant. After all, it was Yilin's bathing time. They both turned their heads, looking very embarrassed. Yilin did not intend to let the three mother spirits misunderstand, and immediately expressed her thoughts. "That's it?" Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxiu breathed a sigh of relief after Yilin explained. It turns out that Yilin did not intend to do anything evil on such a delicate occasion. So the three mother spirits nodded at the same time and agreed. One of them faced up, one faced down, and the other moved horizontally. They penetrated the wall from different directions and left the room as quickly as possible. "Oh. Yeah. Hiss." Yilin quickly switched the angle of view, one was Xiaomei, the other was Xiaohong, and the other was Xiaobai, and she was very happy to watch. 20 minutes later, Yilin opened her eyes, and saw the three little female spirits returning safely with resentful faces. Yilin cleaned the fruit cores and peels in the bathtub, put on a handsome suit, and arranged her makeup in front of the full-length mirror in the bathroom. Top it with an elegant bow and it's perfect. When the fragrant Yilin stepped out of the bathroom, Cerberus was still waiting quietly outside the door. It seemed like she had always been here and never left. Cerberus said that Gu Tianqing and Miriam seemed to have finished their work long ago and moved to the VIP room. I don't know if it was Yilin's misunderstanding, but he always felt that Cerberus was complaining that he took a bath for too long. "The environment here is nice." Yilin smiled. Cerberus was silent. She walked in front to lead the way for Yilin. Yilin didn't get a reply and didn't say anything more. He didn't mention the little note again, as if it had become a little secret between him and Cerberus. Yilin looked at Cerberus's back and thought secretly. This trip to the clock tower seemed not as simple as Myrian imagined. What does that note from Cerberus mean? Is it a reminder? Or simply for some reason, let them get out of the clock tower? And for some reason, she couldn't express her disgust so obviously. While Yilin was thinking, the two walked through the luxurious corridor and came to an empty room. The room still adheres to the classic European style of decoration. The dimly lit room, the fancy colored glass chandelier, the burning fireplace on the wall, and the soft pure fur carpet all exuded the sour smell of money. In the center of the room is a long dining table common in wealthy European families. Along the way, Yilin had no idea whether the Magicians' Association was awesome or not. The intuitive understanding is that the Magicians' Association should have been very rich. The dining table is approximately 10 meters long and 3 meters wide, and Gu Tianqing and Miriam have already dressed up and are waiting quietly for the table. Gu Tianqing was wearing a dark tuxedo, which was somewhat similar to Cerberus's style. He even pretended to be wearing a black top hat, and his white-gloved right hand was unconsciously playing with a gold-encrusted cane, which was extremely luxurious. Pretending. Yilin sat down next to Gu Tianqing speechlessly, thinking that if she could wear a skeleton gentleman's suit, she would look so handsome on you. He. Gu Tianqing smiled and heard Yilin's whisper. Miriam took off her armor and put on a white pleated princess dress, with lace gauze gloves on her slender but powerful arms. She truly deserves to be a descendant of the aristocracy. Putting on the princess dress, she looks as if she really is the daughter of an ancient European family. She is full of pride and nobility. If it weren't for the faint murderous look on her face, people would have mistaken Miriam for a frail noble lady. Both of them seemed to be waiting for Yilin. The three of them finally took their seats. Cerberus bowed and said, Please wait patiently for the three distinguished guests. After saying that, Cerberus silently walked out of the VIP room through another door. In the empty room, only Myrian, Yilin, and Gu Tianqing were left. The three of them exchanged quick glances. They did not communicate verbally, and in the brief eye contact, they all seemed to express that they did not understand the purpose of the Magician Association's torment. But Myrian was asking for help after all, so she could only grit her teeth and endure everything. Cerberus didn't keep the three of them waiting too long. After about a few minutes, there was movement from the door Cerberus left. The sound of wheels grinding on the wooden floor echoed in the empty corridor and entered the VIP room. Cerberus pushed a wheelchair steadily and slowly entered. Sitting in the wheelchair was a pale-faced blond boy who looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. The young man's facial features are very delicate. He wears a pair of black-rimmed glasses, and his eyes are as green as gems. Behind the lenses, the green light shines, which is particularly eye-catching. Although the boy looked very young, when the boy's face appeared in front of Yilin's eyes, Yilin couldn't help but frown slightly. I don't know why, but the first impression the boy gave to Yilin was not that of a young boy's vigor, but rather the vicissitudes and morbidity of an old man. The descendant of the ancient Night King, Miriam Artoria ex Pendragon. A stranger from the east, Mr. Yilin. The wise Mr. Gu Tianqing. Clock Tower, you are welcome. Cerberus pushed the blond boy in the wheelchair and sat down opposite Yilin and the others. The young man's green eyes swept across the faces of the three of them. With a smile on his face, he said their names. After pushing the young man to the dining table, Cerberus silently left behind him, as if he was not worried at all that the three visitors outside the clock tower would have any evil intentions towards the young man. Oh, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Bartholomew Dillon. I am one of the existing monarchs in the clock tower. Monarch? Yilin asked in a low voice. Miriam frowned slightly and explained in a low voice, the Magicians' Association is an orthodox magician academy. Since ancient times, they have been committed to passing on the occult science and cultivating generations of magicians. It is said that magicians there are a total of 12 disciplines in the association, and the leaders of each discipline are the 12 monarchs who serve as the ruling class and stand at the top of the Magicians' Association. Oh? You know. I am a descendant of the Pendragon family, and some of the legends and information about the Magicians' Association are circulated in my family. Today is also my first meeting with the monarch. Bartholomew Dillon gently pushed the frame on the bridge of his nose and stared at Miriam a few meters away. In his green eyes, there was an inexplicable look, and he smiled slightly and said, Milian Arteria is 10 meters away. She Pendragon, we finally meet. You know me. Miriam's hair trembled. The blond boy, Bartholomew Dillon, shook his head slightly. No, but you may not know that your Pendragon family has a deep connection with the Magicians' Association. During a brief conversation between a few people, Cerberus seemed like a real housekeeper. She gracefully pushed a dining cart and re-entered the VIP room. After opening the semicircular stainless steel cover, steaming black tea and exquisitely shaped snacks were served separately. You're welcome. Miriam said you were welcome, but she moved her hands faster than anyone else. Her hair twitched, as if she recognized the delicious food in front of her, and she ate it immediately. Cerberus stood next to Bartholomew Dillon again, like an unknown shadow. Artoria, the 10th life. Bartholomew Dillon smiled and said, I already know your request from your letter. Miriam, who had snow-white cream on her lips, raised her head, with a determined face, and said as she ate, I beg Lord Bartholomew to take out the glory of the Pendragon family from his body. For this, the Pendragon family is willing to pay any price. As she spoke, Myrian pointed her finger at Yilin beside her. When Gu Tianqing saw this scene, she covered her mouth and laughed secretly. The Avalon that was lost again fell on the people of the East again. Ha, What a wonderful coincidence, Bartholomew Dillon whispered to himself. He closed his eyes and seemed to be thinking about whether to answer or not. About 10 seconds later, Miriam had finished eating the exquisite snacks in front of her. Bartholomew Dillon opened her eyes again and said the answer, "Unfortunately, you are late." "What?" Miriam's face became a little more excited, and she didn't care about snacks. She came here with high hopes, just to find a way to remove the Avalon from Yilin's body. She even sent a letter in advance, and the Magician Association also received a reply saying that it was agreed. But she didn't expect that when she worked so hard to bring Yilin here, Bartholomew Dillon would give this kind of reply. Yilin, who was firmly seated in his seat, silently put on the hanging ring under the table. He was worried that Miriam would turn her back and deny anyone else. Yilin would not be arrogant enough to think that the favorability he gained from Miriam was enough to exceed the level of king's glory. Yilin was mentally prepared instantly. Although Miriam is now wearing a princess dress, Yilin estimates that this will not affect her speed of drawing the sword at all. But if we really fight, who is afraid of whom? This is not his territory. Yilin will not restrain himself. Even if this place is blown up, Yilin won't feel any pain at all. But, Bartholomew Dillon changed his tone and smiled, "It's not completely impossible." Miriam calmed down. She also felt that she had reacted a little too fiercely. She whispered an apology and sat down again. At this moment, Cerberus, who was standing next to Bartholomew Dillon, leaned over and whispered something in the boy's ear. The young man nodded. "It's getting late, and the reasons are too complicated. I will explain it to you personally tomorrow." After Bartholomew Dillon finished speaking, he yawned and looked exhausted. The hour and minute hands of the clock coincide exactly and are fixed at midnight. "Please wait a moment, I will arrange a place for the three of you to rest." Cerberus left these words and pushed Bartholomew Dillon to leave. Before leaving, Bartholomew Dillon suddenly seemed to remember something and reminded, "There are many hidden magic mechanisms in the clock tower. If an uninformed person runs around in the clock tower, it is very likely that the magic mechanism will be triggered and be in danger. I hope the three distinguished guests will pay attention." Yilin patted Gu Tianqing next to her on the shoulder expressionlessly and tried to persuade her, "Did you hear me? I'm talking to you. Be honest and stop running around." Gu Tianqing. It can be said that Miriam's mood was ups and downs, a little bad, and her hair was hanging down. After sending away Lord Bartholomew, Cerberus arranged residences for the three of them. They still walked to the seemingly endless corridor, knocked on the wall, and each placed a room. Yilin discovered that there were indeed many rooms hidden on both sides of the corridor, but on the surface, the location of the door could not be seen, which was very strange. Yilin secretly speculated that this might be the secret of magic, and he became more and more interested in this technology. The room decoration was very high-end, and Yilin lay alone on the soft bed, lost in thought. Time passed minute by minute. At 2 o'clock in the morning, Yilin suddenly opened her eyes. "You should have guessed that I won't be so honest, right? Bartholomew Dillon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 714. After 1 hour. 3 o'clock in the morning. Yilin sat on the top of the clock tower, yawning, overlooking the city. City. That's right. Rather than college or association, Yilin felt that it was more appropriate to use city to refer to the buildings built with the clock tower as the core. The Magicians Association is surrounded by mountains. The undulating mountains provide a natural barrier for this mysterious place. When she arrived, Yilin felt strange. There seems to be some kind of cover-up around the Magicians Association. From a distance, it is obviously a mountain. But when Cerberus came out, Yilin looked up and saw the clock tower. Is this magic too? It took Yilin an hour to walk around the entire Magicians Association. In the dead of night, Yilin saw no one else except a few staff members wearing black uniforms and carrying a lamp patrolling the corridor. The dark night is Yilin's best protective color. Yilin even wondered whether the Magicians Association deliberately set up the structural map of the entire Magicians Association in many traffic arteries, allowing Yilin to explore it without any pressure, just like strolling through the back garden of her residence. The Magicians Association covers a much larger area than Yilin imagined. The place where the clock tower is located, according to the markings on the roadside map, is just one of the 12 disciplines of the Magicians Association. The 12 subjects are, general basics, individual basics, spirituality, minerals, animals, inheritance, plants, celestials, creation, curses, archaeology, and modern magic. The rest of the disciplines are hidden in London in various forms, underground or in buildings, just like city within the city. And in the secret, there are many hidden passages that connect these 12 disciplines and connect the entire Magicians Association into one. The strange thing is that many channels are marked with times and do not seem to be in use. In other words, the territory of the Magicians Association is the entire city of London. I heard Miriam mention it before that her Knights League headquarters was also located on the outskirts of London. But it's quite a distance from the clock tower. The foundation of the Knights Alliance's residence is Pendragon's ancestral home, and it is also the place where their ancestors died in battle. That hill is called the Hill of King's Fall in the ancestral motto of their Pendragon family. This was the information that Yilin used the ultimate method, the temptation of delicious food to get it out of De Mao's mouth. In just one day, Yilin has discovered the fatal weakness of the King of Knights. Her IQ will drop to a level slightly lower than that of ordinary people in the face of irresistible delicious food. If the Magicians Association is really as big as it appears on the surface, the second guild in the world will not be able to compete with the Knights Alliance. It seems that my guess is not wrong. Yilin took out a piece of soul food 100 flour seaweed cookies and ate it happily on the clock tower without anyone else around. Yilin didn't eat the midnight snack just now because she was worried about what was hidden in it. I'm a little hungry now. Let's not mention other subjects for now. This is the classroom of the Magicians Association, the first subject, and all basic subjects. Building after building, they are well proportioned. Intricate corridors connect these classrooms. Between the buildings, there are tree-lined paths and skillfully carved human-shaped relief fountains, which look like a well-arranged park. Street lamps are dotted in the dark night. At a glance, it was difficult for Yilin to figure out where these corridors led to. The route is just too complicated. The locations marked on the map are also limited. Yilin discovered that some of the hidden structures Yilin discovered during his exploration were not marked on the map. While taking a bath, Yilin once sent 3 little female spirits to explore through the wall. He discovered that there seemed to be invisible barriers set up in many places, which were clearly visible to the spirit's vision. It was covered with lines that Yilin couldn't understand. Yilin did not rush in without understanding those invisible barriers. In this clock tower, magic is everywhere, constructing everything here. Magic is like gears, running smoothly throughout the clock tower. Yilin only got a glimpse of this brand new system and couldn't help but indulge in it. Otherwise, Yilin would not have spent an hour just exploring. Yilin spent a lot of time studying the structure of magic. Speaking of which, some of the patterns Yilin accidentally saw were somewhat similar to the ancient alchemy books Yilin borrowed from Sci-fi. According to Sci-fi, Europe is also the birthplace of ancient alchemy. On the premise of not alerting them, we can only explore this place for now, Yilin said, glancing at a slightly old building, and chuckled softly in the darkness. The next second, his figure moved, turned into a shadow, and disappeared from the place. A night of silence. In an unfamiliar environment, nothing exciting happened. The next day. Sun on the branches. Yilin slept until she woke up naturally. The sound of warblers and swallows came from the window. The wardrobe in the guest room is also filled with various styles of European clothing. Yilin chose a relatively low-key white shirt and casually unbuttoned the top two buttons. After Yilin finished dressing and washing, she walked out of the room. Cerberus was already waiting outside the door. When Yilin walked out, Cerberus didn't complain at all and said calmly, "Your Majesty, the three of you are already waiting in the VIP room." From the outside, the corridor looks twisted and twisted, but inside, it is a straight corridor with no end in sight. Yilin was amazed by this blinding method without any sense of violation. When we arrived at the VIP room, sure enough, the blonde boy was already sitting in a wheelchair. At the corresponding position of the dining table, high-end silver tableware and fine-grained dinner plates are neatly placed. On the dinner plate, there are scrambled eggs, roasted tomatoes, sausages, bacon, soybeans with tomato sauce, fried potatoes, buttered toast, and croissants. There is only a little bit of each, a wide variety without being bloated, and the display is fancy and clean. On the plate, thick mushroom juice is poured evenly on the food. The corresponding staple food is a bowl of fragrant oatmeal. The colors are just right, the presentation is delicious, and you have a very good chef. Yilin was generous with her praise. As the saying goes, when you are in the country, do as the Romans do. Yilin did not pretend this time. She put on a white scarf, raised her knife and fork, and got ready to eat. Cerberus's voice came from behind, "Thank you for your compliment, Mr. Yilin. Could you please give me a drink? Do you want milk, juice, coffee, or breakfast tea?" "Breakfast tea, thank you. This is a traditional and classic English breakfast, very authentic." As a soul foodie, Yilin could tell at a glance that a lot of thought had gone into the processing of these ingredients and they were worth tasting. The proud and elegant king of knights, Miriam Artoria ex Pendragon, had already been eating hard a few minutes ago and started eating in silence. Just a moment after Cerberus was serving tea, half of the food on Miriam's plate disappeared inexplicably, as if a gust of wind was blowing. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yilin couldn't help but give a thumbs up when she saw Miriam's miraculous but elegant way of eating. Gu Tianqing stood silently, like a little transparent person. After a hearty breakfast, Cerberus bowed to everyone, then silently exited the room and locked the door. In the room, only one of the 12 monarchs, Bartholomew Dillon and Yilin, were left. Yilin was curious. What would happen if he suddenly pulled out a gun at this time? Of course, Yilin was just thinking about it, and it wasn't illegal. Bartholomew Dillon closed his eyes and meditated for a moment, as if thinking about where to start. The blond boy sitting in a wheelchair fiddled with his golden bangs on his forehead from time to time. He always felt a chill on his forehead. There was silence for about half a minute. Bartholomew Dillon begins. The Magicians Association has existed 2,000 years ago and has a long history. We magicians are mysterious researchers and inheritors of mystery. We devote our lives to knowledge and dedicate our knowledge and lives to it. Yilin smiled, "I like knowledge." Bartholomew Dillon responded with a smile, "No one dislikes knowledge. In fact, throughout history, human evolution lies in the inheritance and development of knowledge. And the mystery we study is also a kind of mystery that cannot be understood. A knowledge recognized by most of humanity. The Magicians Association has successfully survived through world changes, technological impacts, and wars throughout history. In the past, our Magicians Association even had hidden branches all over the world. Until, 10 years ago. The young man sighed, as if he had remembered something, and his face became paler. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. When it appeared, the Magicians Association was completely in name only. In fact, there are no more magicians in the world now. Association, only, Clock Tower. And you are the outsiders who have set foot in the clock tower for the first time in the past 10 years. Miriam looked solemn and said seriously, "It's an honor." The young man waved his hand, signaling to the King of Knights that there was no need to be polite. His cold eyes fell on Yulin, guest from the east. "Do you know that the treasure belonging to the Pendragon family, Avalon, is also called Distant Utopia? What is it?" Myrian and Gu Tianqing's eyes turned to Yulin at the same time. The King of Knights' eyes almost burst into flames. Speaking of which, it was all tears. Prop Yulin smiled and said, "A companion prop that can't be taken off. By the way, it's epic." As he spoke, Yulin and the young monarch looked at each other and observed each other's expressions. The young man's eyelids were drooped, and behind the lenses, the emotion and look in his eyes were completely hidden. Bartholomew Dillon did not refute Yulin's words, but just continued, "That is a prototype noble phantasm." Before Yulin and others could ask questions, the boy did not continue to explain what the prototype noble phantasm was. In order to separate the prototype noble phantasm from the host, there were originally corresponding magic rituals that could be done. However, when it appeared, the prototype noble phantasm was given new power. Prototype noble phantasm tool has become the mystery itself. That is, props. The mystery is inseparable from the host and almost impossible to separate in any way. On the side, Miriam had a complicated expression when she heard this. His eyes were full of murderous intent, his hair was hanging down, and his facial features were squeezed together, looking like he was about to cry. Of course, this is just Yulin's interpretation of Miriam's twisted expression. Maybe she is resisting the urge to draw her sword and kill people now. Almost. Under the table, Yulin quietly pushed a card into Miriam's hand. It was a delicacy that Miriam praised highly. After taking the soul food, Myrian looked down and her eyes lit up. Coupled with Yulin's deliberate question of almost, Miriam calmed down again. Call. A false alarm. Now it would be really embarrassing for Myrian to kill someone in public. Yes, almost. Bartholomew Dillon continued with an expressionless and tired face, "It gives the prototype noble phantasm new power, making the prototype noble phantasm that exists in the world. It has become a mystery again. Including a certain thing that has been hidden in the clock tower." Yulin, Gu Tianqing, and Miriam listened quietly. When Bartholomew Dillon said this, Yulin had roughly guessed what he was going to say next. "Really?" The young man continued. "That thing has been sealed in the clock tower as a research object. Even 10 years ago, when the world changed, the mysterious attribute of that thing was still not enough to restore it to the same level as the legend. Ability that matches the requirements. So, very few people know that thing exists." Miriam looked happy. Hope is coming. But as soon as this joy was born, before it even hit the ground, Yulin poured a basin of cold water on it. Yulin changed into a comfortable position and leaned on the backrest. The knuckles of his right hand gently tapped the sterling silver armrest, making a crisp tapping sound. The other hand habitually picked at the cool dead skin on his forehead. He chuckled and interrupted the young monarch, "That thing is gone." Miriam was dumbfounded. Gu Tianqing also smiled. Bartholomew Dillon raised his eyes again, with a hint of surprise in his jade-green eyes. He did not expect that this guest from the east would catch the key points in this conversation and guess the truth in a very short time. Yes, it was stolen. Very good. Yulin stood up, "Now things are clear. You, the clock tower, should have had an accident 10 years ago. In fact, it is not difficult to guess that since Miriam mentioned that you exclude people like us at that time, I was thinking about one thing. Who does we mean? If you think about it carefully, you can guess it. The only thing we have in common. Then, another problem arises. That's what impact the arrival of the Tower of War has on you. It's just that some people were summoned and became apostles. Yes, this should be a high probability event, because this was once an association of magicians specializing in mystery. So the question is, becoming an apostle is undoubtedly the same as the purpose of pursuing knowledge is contrary to the purpose. Because an apostle is a being who directly acquires a certain ability and releases various skills without asking the reason. The skills of an apostle are more powerful than the magic you are studying. Like magic. Obviously, in the eyes of a group of scholars who study mysteries, apostles are equivalent to aliens. Oh, Miriam, don't look at me like this, I read exclamation on your stupid hair. I don't know much about what happened 10 years ago, but I can tell that now there are only a group of non-apostles left in the clock tower, or in other words, you are all rejected people. And, for some reason, you can't easily step out of the clock tower. Haha, I found a lot of footprints around the three-way intersection, but most of them were walking inward, and there were no outward footprints. Moreover, the footprints there are traces of erasure. I speculate that it is possible that during this period, the clock tower was invaded and was blocked by you. It's very possible that this is what your kind left behind. In other words, you don't dare to go out at all. You must guard the base camp of the clock tower. It's more likely that the only territory left in your clock tower is here. The masters of the clock tower, the magicians, are trapped here instead. Right. The above are all my guesses. If there is any wrong guess, please point it out. Yulin stood up and looked at the young monarch sitting in the wheelchair across the long table with a smile. Yulin spoke eloquently. Miriam was stunned. She didn't understand. Yulin said it all in one breath, a bit fast. Opposite the long table, one of the 12 monarchs, Bartholomew Dillon, fell silent. Crack, snap, snap. After a moment of silence, Bartholomew Dillon raised his head again and clapped his hands again and again. Wonderful. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 715. Wonderful. Bartholomew Dillon applauded. He expressed his approval of Yilin's reasoning. This guy is pretending well. Gu Tianqing smiled at the side and whispered, "BB. Roll." Yilin lowered his head and gave Gu Tianqing a kind smile. Gu Tianqing spread her hands, stretched her hand to her lips, and said, "Zip up," which means I shut up. Yilin continued, "Do you mean I'm right? Then the matter is very clear. To sum up, all the magicians in the clock tower are non-apostles." Bartholomew Dillon replied, "Yes. 10 years ago, what happened to your clock tower was probably a factional struggle. Are all those who became apostles driven away?" Bartholomew Dillon closed his eyes, his pale face expressionless, nodded, and answered again, "Yes." Yilin picked at the dead skin on his forehead and peeled off the clues he learned bit by bit. Combining the young man's reaction, he continued to speculate and analyze. The thing you mentioned will soon come to the Tower of War. It is possible that it has been given properties again. It can solve Miriam's troubles. Miriam stood aside, her eyes widened, she nodded vigorously, and listened very carefully. Even though she didn't quite understand, she still understood the last sentence. "Yes." Bartholomew Dillon responded to Yilin's speculations with only one word. It seemed that Yilin had guessed everything. But that thing was stolen? Haha, Yilin smiled, "Although I think it is a bit coincidental, I will believe it for now. Since you can't walk out of the clock tower at will now, in other words, you can recover this thing. Will the task of creating a treasure ultimately fall on us?" Bartholomew Dillon lowered his eyelids and replied in a low voice, "Yes. We got that thing back, so you can take Avalon out of my body." "Yes. That would be a shame." Suddenly, Yilin's voice changed and she shook her head. Originally, Yilin and Bartholomew Dillon were having a quick Q/U0026A, but Miriam and Gu Tianqing listened with interest and did not dare to interrupt. This scene changed, and Yilin's words caused the atmosphere of the friendly question and answer game to become awkward for a moment. What do you mean? Miriam stood up and asked with a trembling voice. Yilin ignored Miriam, whose expression changed suddenly and her hair stood up to show that she was suppressing her anger. He still stood, smiling and looking directly at Bartholomew Dillon on the other side of the long table, and slowly spoke. Dear Lord of the Clock Tower, Bartholomew Dillon, I think you have misunderstood something. Bartholomew Dillon slowly typed a question mark. That's not how this matter is calculated. Yilin stretched out a finger. Originally, if that thing is still in the clock tower, the nature of the matter, to put it bluntly, is that Miriam has something to ask for, and I do good deeds as you pass by. But since that thing is not in the clock tower and has been stolen, the nature of the matter is different. Now, it is you who are asking for something from us. I think, except for us who took the initiative to send it to your door, no one else will. There is reason to proactively hunt down the treasure thief and get that treasure back. In other words, if you want us to agree to find that treasure, you have to agree to our request. Well, this becomes a deal. Call. Yilin finished speaking. Miriam was completely angry. With a clanging sound, Miriam shook her right hand, and a strong wind blew up. She held an invisible weapon in her hand and slashed towards Yilin with a sword. Damn it, don't you even know how to perform a double act? According to Yilin's speculation, there is a 50% chance that Miriam will attack herself, a 40% chance of attacking Bartholomew Dillon, and the remaining 10% chance in a daze. Sure enough, she became violent. A sword struck Yilin. Yilin, who was well prepared, swayed and narrowly avoided the sharp sword wind. Because of Yilin's agility, ah no, now she is dexterous. Yilin's dexterity attribute is very different from Miriam's. After all, Miriam is a serious melee apostle. Even though she was well prepared, the sword wind still barely brushed past Yilin's arm. If she hadn't dodged quickly, the sword might have chopped Yilin into pieces. Crash. Gu Tianqing held the tarot cards, smiled and stood in the corner, spreading her hands, looking helpless. The gorgeous long table was split in half by Miriam in an instant. The angry Miriam chewed deep tears in the corners of her eyes. Her angry eyes seemed to say I misjudged you, and other complex emotions. The long skirt moves without any wind, and the heroic figure of the King of Knights is fully displayed at this moment. Boom. Lord Bartholomew. The moment the gorgeous dining table was cut in half by Miriam's sword and cracked open. An agile figure smashed the back door with force and flexibly rolled inside. It's Cerberus. Cerberus has been loyal to the door since the beginning. She had no idea what was going on inside. But when Miriam drew her sword, she already sensed that something was wrong and rushed in immediately. Just in time to see Miriam's fur trembling, she drew her sword angrily and cut the expensive dining table in half. Crushed wood chips scattered in all directions like bullets. Run. Valdo. B.A. Champer. Cerberus turned his right wrist and held a silver dagger inlaid with gems in his right hand. And she quickly chanted a few weird syllables in her mouth at the same time, clapping her left hand in front of her, and 4 radiant words shattered in front of her. The magic barrier transformed by the light of the words took shape in the blink of an eye, and Miriam's sword wind and flying wood chips were easily blocked by Cerberus, who arrived in time. Yilin was also unscathed. In an instant, the atmosphere in the messy VIP room suddenly solidified. The tense atmosphere seemed to be on the verge of breaking out. Miriam quickly apologized, "Sorry, I was impulsive. But please let me kill him with one sword." Miriam first apologized sincerely in the direction of Bartholomew Dillon, and then pointed the invisible weapon wrapped in an invisible cyclone at Yilin. Miriam's eyes were filled with anger as she looked at Yilin. Her idea is simple. How could you be like this? Where's the promised help? I thought you were a good person. I didn't expect you to be like this, Yilin. There were faint tears in Miriam's eyes. She was extremely disappointed with Yilin, and the image of the tall skilled chef suddenly collapsed. Along the way, the favorability she gradually accumulated made Miriam mistakenly think that Yilin was a good person. Yilin knew that Miriam was overwhelmed by a moment of anger. Forget it, don't blame her. He silently looked at the other side of the damaged dining table. From beginning to end, he was observing the reaction of Lord Bartholomew. He was sitting in a wheelchair and looked frail. But from the time Miriam burst into action and before Cerberus came in, there was no trace of panic or surprise on his face, and he was as calm as ever. On the contrary, Cerberus, who arrived later, performed a strange defensive magic, and his right eye without an eye patch showed obvious anger and disgust. The test is over. Yilin thought of the small note that Cerberus quietly handed him. What does the word "run" on the note mean? The situation seems more complicated than Yilin imagined. In the VIP room, the four of them fell into silence. Bartholomew Dillon waved his hand gently. Cerberus, stop. Cerberus closed his eyes, and the cute little dagger slipped back into his sleeve. She stood up straight, stood beside Bartholomew Dillon again, bowed and said, "Yes, my master." "Stop it too." Yilin pointed at Miriam. Miriam was stunned. "Wait a moment. Is this guy issuing orders to the proud descendants of the Night King?" Yilin shook a card over. Miriam took it smoothly, looked at it, and silently put away the sword. "You're right." After the little interlude just now, Bartholomew Dillon understood the character of this Oriental. He stopped talking nonsense and said straight to the point, "Guests from the East, as long as you are willing to find someone for the clock tower, return that treasure, and the clock tower will agree to a condition for you." "Oh, I don't have the habit of collecting eas. I think you have to agree to my conditions first, and then I will do my best and leave no stone unturned to complete your entrustment." "This is an entrustment, you understand?" Cerberus, who was standing next to Bartholomew Dillon, suddenly stared with his right eye. She was shocked. How dare anyone dare to say such shameless words to one of the 12 monarchs of the clock tower, the former 3 nobles, and the current person in charge of the clock tower, Bartholomew Dillon? Ridiculous. Not unlike Cerberus' wrath. Bartholomew Dillon seemed to have expected Yilin's request. There was no surprise on his expression. The young man chuckled, his voice a little more hoarse, and vicissitudes of life, entrustment. "Yes, this is a commission. Distinguished guest from the East, tell me your conditions." At this point, Yilin no longer had any need to conceal the purpose of her visit to the clock tower. He said, "Coach, I want to learn magic." Miriam was stunned. Things seemed to be developing beyond her expectations. From her understanding, it seemed that she had finally brought Yilin over from the server next door through her unremitting efforts. But Yilin mentioned this condition so readily and without any hesitation. Why did it seem like she had planned it thousands of times? Who brought whom to the clock tower? Miriam suddenly had the illusion that she was being taken to the clock tower by Yilin. After Yilin made a reasonable request. Opposite, Bartholomew Dillon and Cerberus seemed not to have expected that Yilin would make such a condition. Bartholomew Dillon exhaled a long breath and seemed to be smiling again. Cerberus lowered his head and glanced at his monarch. After a brief exchange of eyes, Cerberus looked much more relaxed. She smiled half-heartedly. "Guest from the East, do you know what the essence of magic is?" Yilin shook his head and replied confidently, "If I want to know, I still need to learn. I don't want to learn because I don't understand." "Stop talking, Cerberus." Bartholomew Dillon smiled slightly. "I promise you. From now on, Cerberus will be your personal tutor in magic." "Yes, master." Cerberus hesitated for a few seconds, but she did not refute or refuse, and just agreed. Things progressed more smoothly than Yilin imagined. It was initially speculated that the clock tower would not welcome the apostles, and Yilin was worried that his path to learning knowledge would encounter many obstacles. Magicians are quite generous. Yilin thought so at first. Until half an hour later, Cerberus took Yilin to the library. Here, there is no one. The other magician apprentices in the clock tower are taking classes in other classrooms. Although the clock tower was invaded, academic activities here did not suffer any hindrance and continued as usual. When she was alone with Cerberus, Yilin wanted to ask what the note meant. But Cerberus seemed to have forgotten that matter, or in other words, for some reason, she couldn't mention it directly to Yilin. Yilin could only hide the matter in her heart for the time being, and wait until she had the opportunity to investigate the secrets. The library is a room tens of meters high. Rather than calling it a room, it might be more appropriate to describe it as a book tower. Inside the cylindrical building, as soon as Yilin entered the door, she was overwhelmed by the vast sea of books. He didn't expect to see so many books in one room. With the popularization of electronics, this kind of paper books has long become a remnant of history. Obviously, these are antiques. You may not see it, but Xing Fei treats his few tattered ancient alchemy books as treasures. The interior of the cylindrical library covers an area of 200 to 300 square meters. The walls are all inlaid with curved bookshelves, which extend to the 10-meter-high roof. Looking up, Yilin was a little worried. If these books were smashed down, the person standing at the bottom would be buried. A spiral staircase extends clockwise along the bookshelves to the top of the library. If you want to take down the books, as long as you can't fly, you can only step up the spiral staircase step by step, take down the books from the bookshelf, and then sit down in the center of the library on an empty table and chair to read them. Breathtaking. Yilin sighed. Cerberus turned his back to Yilin and said nothing. Yilin thought of what happened in the VIP room during breakfast and asked, "There is one thing I didn't have time to ask just now. Where did those apostles who were driven away 10 years ago go?" Cerberus was silent for a few seconds, as if this was not a secret that could not be revealed, and the people Yilin faced next might also be from there. She answered coldly, "The former Magicians Association was composed of 3 major organizations." Composed. These 3 major institutions are the Clock Tower, the Atlas Courtyard, and the Wandering Sea. Oh. The 3 major institutions. Interesting, please elaborate. Yilin pulled up a small stool and sat down, becoming interested. Cerberus glanced at Yilin expressionlessly and continued, "The Wandering Sea is a moving mountain range that wanders in the Atlantic Ocean. It is also called the Moving Stone Coffin, because the mountain range itself is huge. The location of the magic mechanism cannot be seen using ordinary methods. 10 years ago, most of the magicians who became your kind moved there. Not long ago, those who attacked your clock tower were the people from Wandering Sea." "Yes. Tisk, 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 we are born from the same roots. Why are we in such a hurry to fight each other?" "It's nothing, cough. Just forget it if you don't understand. You can continue. By the way, where is the other one?" As soon as he finished speaking, Cerberus poured out the secrets of the Magicians Association like a jar being broken. In fact, to put it bluntly, this history is already in the past and is no secret. She answered, "Atlas Court is located inside the Atlas Mountains. However, whether it is the Clock Tower or Wandering Sea, there has been no contact with Atlas Court for nearly 10 years. Atlas Mountains. African continent?" Hearing this, Yilin understood instantly. The territory of the Tower of Famine? That's it? This is another bad thing in another district. No wonder we no longer have any contact with each other.